and welcome to the Africana Library, and welcome to the third day. Is it the third day of the annual National Archives Awareness Week? Today's program is a practical workshop on the basics of conservation of paper records, right? Paper records, paper documents, books, and all of that. Shall we give a round of applause and welcome Ms. Manda Hoog? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good morning. I want to welcome you this morning. Forgive me if I pronounce the people's surnames incorrectly. I'll try my best. Our workshop facilitator for the day, Mr. Alexio Mozzi. He's from the National Archives Record Services in Pretoria, and he's an archivist. So it's his daily job to preserve documents. And then Mr. Johan Pieterse and Ms. Kenewe Mabapa from the National Archives Advisory Council. They are on this council. It's a national council that has to advise the minister on anything relating to archives. So they have a very important job. and I heard that Mr. Pieterse is also an archivist. He studied archival science, so he is also very welcome in our midst. So he knows what we are talking about. So that's why he's on the council, I suppose. And then we also have Professor Christine Landman. She's from the Oral History Association of South Africa. So I don't know if you know, but oral history is also a kind of document or object that is very important. So if the people don't tell their stories, then we won't know the stories. On Monday evening there was a book launch at Salga, and we listened to two authors that wrote a book about stories, oral stories that people told them, and then they wrote a book about that. And the other author also did a book about the blind people in Kimberley who told her their story. They wrote a novel actually. So they thought out this book. The blind people was the authors of the book actually, and she just wrote it down. So oral history is also very important. So if you don't tell your children what happened when you were small, then they won't know where your family comes from. So that's why oral history is also very important. And then also our program director, Mr. Kwenkwezi Languza, he's the head of the National Archives Repository. So that is where all this information is gathered and kept in one place, so that we can have access to that. And then also our UNISA staff and our staff from Department of Arts and Culture, all the library staff that is here to attend the workshop. I hope I didn't leave anybody else out, all protocol observed. I just want to give you a quick, I went and looked in the dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary. They say archives is a collection of historical documents or records providing information about a place, institution, or group of people. So archives, like yesterday, when the presenter presented, he said like archives can be objects, it can be books, it can be documents, and like Mrs. Nagel said in her presentation, it can also be like tables or chairs, or like the tables and chairs you are using today is very old, so they also tell a story. So archival material can be any object. And if you use archives, you must remember that different people wrote different documents or books from their perspective. So if you use archives or even a library, you must always cross-reference the document. So because maybe Ms. Nagel writes something out of her perspective, and Mr. Nkwezi will write it from his perspective. So you must cross-reference and get all the documents together so that you can have an overall objective view of what happened in history. And you must always make sure that the documents or the information you use are relevant and that it is valid, because sometimes people, that's why it's very important if you Google or use the internet, that you must make sure the information is valid, because sometimes anybody can write anything and they're not expert on that subject. So that's also very important. So if you maybe use the Africana library and then there's a diary written in, say, Mr. Bertram, who was the librarian here, then you know it is a valid document. So that's just a little bit of background about archives and why it is important. And then just to say, why is today's workshop important? Because if an archive is there, we can gather all the information, we can keep it up to date. But if there's no staff to help the people extract the information, then there's no use to it. So that's why the staff is important, because a normal person that comes from outside won't necessarily know where to search for something, but that's why the staff gets training to know how to help the public that comes in. And that's why it is important for staff to be constantly developed, and staff development is very important so that you can be up to date with new technologies and stuff. And the theme for this archival week is the time of artificial intelligence, leave nobody behind. So that's also why we talked yesterday about digitization, why it's important to digitize our documents and to preserve it so that the people that come after us can still have, in 100 years' time, can have access to that. So I hope everybody's welcome at the library, enjoy our library, enjoy the workshop, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hoog. Mr. Mozi, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hoog and Mr. Chairperson of the session. And welcome, everybody. I really am in very familiar and unfamiliar territory today. Reason being that this is where I started. Conservation is where I started. But somehow, I seem to have projected other skills in other things that then I ended up being drawn into more management things than management work than just the actual hands-on. So I'm going to rely on my colleague who does this on a daily basis, Annelise, but we'll introduce her when the time comes. And we also need to appreciate the Africana Library for hosting us and giving us this space and providing the material. And as you can see, we also have supplies from UNISA. Thank you so much to UNISA for assisting and enabling us to do this workshop. You are going to be working on probably 2 projects, right? Yeah, but Annelise will explain as we get there to that point. But before we get to the practicals, I just wanted to do a bit of to give you an overview of where conservation fits in. Why do we eventually do the work that you are supposed to be doing, some of the things that you're going to be doing? So over the years, as a conservator, I've realized that conservation is basically like surgical work. You can tell me any surgical work on a human body to save life that is cheap. unless if it's done by drug lords when they're inserting drugs in you to traffic you traffic the drug somewhere else. But it's not cheap because it's your life as well that you're gambling with. So conservation is exactly like that. It's very expensive. Everything that you need here. Annelies was making a remark that she can't find this here in South Africa, and I said, you can't find anything in South Africa regarding conservation. That's the reality. Everything that we buy, if you see anything that is here, it will cost maybe 50 pence or 50 cents in euros in Europe, but here that will be multiplied by 20 or by 22. So, and then you put the markup, the import and export duties and the agents markup. But okay, so much with that. Let me then bring you to the context. Basically, when we talk about conservation, the starting point is preventive conservation, because they say prevention is better than cure. We do everything in our power to try and prevent damage, because we know it's very costly to repair the damage. Hence, you had the chairperson of the session asking colleagues not to have water here, because these are strict instructions that we are adhering to. If you look at the room that you are sitting, you are sitting in a room with lots of books, and it's wooden floor. And as we know, wooden floor, they don't just put wood on top of cement. There is a bit of a void in between the cement and this floor, so it can be a habitat for pests. So if you drop food here, the pests will live here and they will be harboring under this floor, and they will just sneak in and eat the records. So we try to deter them. So that's part of preventive conservation. So preventive conservation is any action that we take to prevent anything that causes damage to records, or to prevent damage, or to slow down deterioration of archival records or library or museum. Even with life, we prevent deterioration of life. Hence, people take supplements. I think when you reach a certain age, you can check in people's bags. You'll see a whole lot of box of supplements in their bags. It's to prevent being sick. It's to prevent sort of collapsing because of high blood pressure, prevent diabetes, a whole lot of things. So that's preventive conservation for us. So what are those things that we do in terms of prevention of conservation? I'll talk to them as we go. Now, the rationale for preventive conservation is exactly what I've said. Prevention is better than cure. You allow something to deteriorate, you are going to pay a lot of money to actually repair the damage. Most of you have got houses. If you allow your house to deteriorate, you see plumbing beginning to leak, and you say, no, I'll wait. The cost of fixing that leak versus the cost of fixing the broken or the best pipe is not the same. That just like those with cars, the glass fit people will tell you, if you see a chip, go and get it fixed. Because you can fix the chip for 300 rands, but you cannot replace a full windscreen for 300 rands. So those are the things that rationalize why we really need to do prevention in everything that we do. And prevention is not just something that we do in here. It starts from the outside, your building, your environment, the location of your building. You need to study and understand what's around your building. This building is in a very vulnerable location. It's in the middle of an urban area. It's surrounded, if you drive around here, there's so much dilapidated buildings, and dilapidated buildings means plumbing and water reticulation and drainage is not being tended. There is a possibility of vermin, the risk of vermin coming, because vermin always look for the cleaner space to come and habitat. So those are some of the things. And preventive conservation also have got certain activities that we're going to talk about when we go through the presentation. And what is the sort of difference, prevention versus conservation? I'll talk to that as well. So the starting point is links to what I've just said in terms of scanning your environment, in terms of your climatic condition. Kimberley is known for extremes. If it's hot, it's hot. If it's cold, it's cold. There's no in between. And I'm sure the Africana Library have planned their environmental control, even their aircon system is designed around that. Because if you go to Durban, you're dealing with a different environment altogether. Durban, if you're sitting in Durban now and the aircon was not working for a week or so, you would be smelling mold as we sit here. You would smell it. It's a reality that they've got to deal. So in everything that we do, you must also look at the environmental conditions in the location where your facility is. And so then what emergencies can actually affect archives? If you are in an area that is prone to emergencies such as disasters, flooding, if you're in a floodplain, or if you're in an area where you get a lot of heavy winds, or you get fire, all these things you need to factor them around your facility. That's the starting point. Your facility must be protected, or you must be prepared to deal with those things. And sometimes it's also nice to engage with your neighbors and work together as a collective, because your neighbor can be your highest risk. So these are things that you need to keep in mind. And so what have been the impact of COVID pandemic to archives? I think this is just one of those, I don't know whether I can still call it an emerging disaster, because it's some of us think it's behind us. But I see now, I've got a message from my medical aid that there's now influenza, there's this pneumonic, whatever vaccine that they are now developing, that they are now saying you can go and get that. So because of COVID, now you've got all these things that are beginning to be realized now as actually possible disasters. Because if they say there is now influenza, one of us have got influenza, we've got to cancel this workshop. We just have to cancel it, because we can't risk everybody being infected, because COVID is not behind us as yet, because it might be hiding through that. So all these things you must keep in mind that, and COVID has also changed the way we work. You can see the way people are sitting. We try to maintain social distance as much as we can. And what are the risks that are facing our archives or libraries? Beyond the natural causes, the natural risks, there are also man-made risks. One of the simplest ones is that a person can forget to lock the door. A person can forget to switch off when there is no water. Maybe there's municipality water, there's a problem. They switch off the water somewhere. You go to the toilet, you want to wash your hands, you open the tap, there is no water, you walk away, you leave it like that. It's a risk. So regularly there must be somebody, whenever things like that happen, and I'm sure Annalise does that, whenever there's no water in the area, after everybody is gone, she goes around to close the taps and make sure that everything is turned off. Even lights, you must go and switch off the lights as well. There's somebody who must be tasked to do that. And the common disasters, you should know the common disasters around you, and how to prevent them, and how to respond to that, meaning to say you must have a disaster management and disaster preparedness plan, and how to conduct salvage operations after a disaster. I was in one of the provinces which I shall not mention, and one of the things that I was conducting an assessment, and one of the things that I picked up was that they don't have access to a conservator, and yet their buildings are in such a dire need. And they've had floods, buildings have been flooded, records have been affected, but they don't have access to a conservator to actually assist them in restoring those records. So those are some of the things that you need to keep in mind, that an archive, if you're an archive or repository, you need to have access to a conservator, because when things get damaged, it might be your most valuable material. You can't just fold your hands and say, let it go. Somebody must come and fix it. Because it is your mandate. Remember, archives work within a government or legislative mandate, and it's a constitutional right to every one of you that we preserve that record. Mr. Languza can attest to the fact that there was the Dictabel, the Evonia trial. The fact that you can now be able to proudly say you can listen to Walter Sisulu, Nelson Mandela during the trial, is because we said, we cannot give an excuse that this is obsolete technology, so we can't do anything. We had to go and look for solutions, and we found the solutions, and we recovered that content. So it is actually a mandate that we have. And so you must also be able to write a disaster management plan. There is actually a compliance issue. If you are coming from government or municipality, there's a compliance issue here that you are required to have a disaster management plan or business continuity strategy, which you submit to the Department of Rural Development, if I'm not mistaken, the National Disaster Management Center. If you are national or the provincial disaster management, you must lodge your disaster management plan with them. It's a compliance issue. The fact that they do not have enough capacity to monitor, that is going to, eventually, you will not have the luxury of getting away with it. Remember, in the past, people used to get away with audit and all that, but now you can't get away with it. They catch you. And then integrated pest management, I spoke about the understanding what the flow is like, what your cupboards are made of, the material that is used, the fabric of your building. You need to be able to understand what pests could actually be, because you could be putting your books in furniture that is already infested. And any of these books may have not been handled for the past probably 5-10 years, unless if there's regular cleaning where they take them out and they clean. In archives, you can have records that can be sitting in an archive in a repository for 50 years and nobody opens that box. And one day I was in Ghana at one point where we were doing something with UNESCO, and we then started conducting an assessment. And as we walked into one of the storage facilities, there were boxes sitting on the floor. And when we lifted the boxes, guess what came out? Sand, soil, termites. You know how termites operate. You see this floor is beautiful up here, but underneath you try to dance on that floor, you go under. Because the termites, they don't want the light. So they'll just leave that cover, but they will eat everything else. So you might think that you've got books in there, but all you just see is shells. So these are some of the things that you need to prevent. And you need to know the pests in your area and what effects can they have on records. Some people are scared of snakes and lizards and all that because snakes can bite you and kill you. But if you ask me as a conservator, if you say you saw a snake in the archives, I'll only get worried about people being bitten. I don't worry about any damage to the records. In fact, it is my policeman because it catches all those little things, the rats and whatever, that could actually damage the In other countries, they've been testing on that. In agriculture, for instance, they have been using snakes to test, to actually eliminate some of the rodents that are damaging to crops, because a snake cannot damage your mealie corns, but rats do, but the snakes can eat the rats and mice as well. So you also need to understand the causes of infestation, and in the human life, people are so attractive to pests. For whatever reasons, the things that we don't want are the things that come to us. Our cockroaches, we hate cockroaches with passions, but they want to be where we are because, you know what? We feed them. That's just the bottom line. We feed them. So we need to know the pests that we deal with, and what are the pest prevention measures for archives. What measures do we have? Annalise will show you some of the things that they use here. We use perimeter spray, which we appoint service providers on a contract to come and do perimeter spray because they can't spray on records. But I have one challenge with that. Because our building has got these ceilings, and inside the ceiling there is wiring and cabling. A few months ago, somebody saw a little baby bat, 2 bats actually, that had died. And for me, that was an indication that there is a problem in our ceiling because bats feed on insects. And each time we get the perimeter spray, we do it on a quarterly basis. Then after, if you come on the Monday, we do it on a Saturday. On Monday you come, you see a few dead cockroaches around the building. And when I raise this with the service provider to say, I'm worried about this, then they say, no, but you shouldn't be worried. The chemical is working. And I said, yes, the chemical is working. But you see, our system is you spray this perimeter. you don't spray in the cupboards, you don't spray. Where are these things living in between the services? So that, for me, is a worry, because they are hiding somewhere, and they are happy. You see big cockroaches, so they've been breeding somewhere. So we tried to do the fogging, you know, that fogging, and we were proposing this. But the problem is we've got a complex fire prevention or fire detection system. It will set off the alarms and it will dump gas. So we've got a problem. So what solutions do we have? We've got to find ways in which we insist that people must always be vigilant, prevent eating in the building. But it's a very difficult situation, because you've got people who are living in they work in their offices, they close the doors, they switch the heaters on. It's a battle that we keep fighting, but fortunately we have not had much infestation in our building. And then, so this is in terms of emergency preparedness, these are the issues the questions that you need to answer. I'm doing this in the form of questions. And these questions point you to what you need to do, and I can be able to share this presentation with you as well, so that it can assist you in seeing, in measuring yourself. Do you have this? Do you do this? Do you do that? So here you say, what emergencies can affect archives? How do archives prepare themselves for any emergencies? What have been the impact? We spoke about the COVID as well. What risks face archives? So all these questions, you need to be able to answer them. Then the last one is is collections care management, which actually talks to the issue of storage. How do you store the records? What environmental conditions do you impose on your storage? And do you differentiate the storage or do you separate the storage for various materials or mediums like film and paper? Do you mix them? How do you store your maps, your cartographic material, and the containers that you use? Are they complying with SABS standards? And the SABS standards that you think you are complying with, are they complying with the conservation standards? Because our SABS standard, the boxes that we know of here are cardboard boxes that are based on mechanical wood pulp, and they've got a very high level of lignin, and they actually are damaging to the records themselves. And then the facilities and furniture for storing archives. I've spoken about the building being your first line of defense. The fabric of your building, whatever you have in your building, you need to know your building in and out. And preservation people and conservators, they tend to know the buildings in and out. They uncover things that you have no idea what actually is behind these walls. And it's my duty to know. That's why I would have to speak to the people who find the records and the documents about the design and the plans for this building, to know what's behind. Because you might be thinking that these cupboards are there's a wall behind it, only to find that it's actually a dry wall and it's a void in between there, because the architects can hide things if they want to save money. We know that. And then education and awareness, which is very critical. You can never go wrong when you educate your staff and your colleagues about the risks, because only that way they can be able to take ownership and assist you, because I can't be everywhere. I'm here in Kimberley. My team, my conservation team, is attending a training somewhere in KwaZulu-Natal. There's no one in preservation at the National Archives, but I can guarantee you the people that are there, I know that they are doing their best, because we work as a collective. We break those barriers, and we know that people, even when we've got a rule in my section that I tend to lose staff to other sections for some reason. But if you leave preservation and you move to another section, you're still a preservation person. It doesn't take away what we have taught you. It doesn't take away that vigilance that we trained you on. So if you are now working with, in the repository or at the film archives or in records management, you are actually looking at preservation issues as well. And we maintain communication, and we guide, and we continue to work together. So I thought I must just give you this sort of overview so that you know what you are doing. It must be done in a particular context. Conservation, remember I spoke about preventive versus intervention. This is part of the intervention. it's now what do you call, some people would say restoration, some people use repair, some people call it rehabilitation. You can use any term that you want, but at the end of the day, it's when records, there are two reasons why records can come to a conservation laboratory. One is to be protected, which is what you're going to do here. The other is to be repaired. When they have been damaged, you repair them. And the whole idea is we've got this motto called preservation for access. That's how we justify our preservation and conservation, because we are doing that for the records to be accessed. And we've got a tool that we use that was developed by the Dutch, which actually assists you in identifying different types of damage. I'll look for it in my computer while we are busy here and see if I can be able to share also a copy of that with you guys, because it helps you to identify different types of damage to books especially. And what then it does is it then helps you to also determine the accessibility level. You've got to rate it. In this condition, can this book be used without any conservation intervention? Or can it be, what needs to be done for you to be able to access it? And what level of intervention is required? Is it extreme or is this just minor? And then they get to a point where you can say, actually, this one cannot be, it's beyond repair. There's nothing you can do about it. We do, and unfortunately, we've got that very painful role to declare records and books dead, permanently dead. That's one of the most painful parts, just like a nurse or a doctor who say, this person is now deceased. It's the most painful thing, because imagine records have been burned and they say, no, these ones cannot be repaired. They are beyond repair. And you declare them to be, they must be written off completely. So what we are going to do is to just show you a few tricks that you can do within your own capacity, within your own environment, that can help you. So we're going to do a bit of show you how to clean records, basic tools that you need for cleaning records, and then we'll then take maybe an hour to an hour and a half for you to do this, what is lying in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moti. And welcome to those who joined us a few minutes late. Just a quick announcement. May I humbly request that you put your phones on silent, or if possible, please switch them off. If possible. Please switch them off if you're not expecting any emergencies. If you are, please put it on silent, especially if you've got these, phones with funny names. Your Alcatel and your, maybe if you've got an Apple or Huawei, If you still have a BlackBerry, it's a problem. It's a serious, serious problem. Okay, again, colleagues, welcome. The practical part of the program is going to start. I'm going to give them 5 minutes to set up. Do you need 5 minutes, Miss Nigel? You fine? Are you ready to go? Are we ready to fly? Okay. I think there's one person who needs to just quickly set up, because the idea here is that whilst they are doing the practical part here, you should be able to see what they are doing on the screen, right? Because not all of you can come and stand and see, right? So where is James? Is James around? Is James still here? Memabab, are you fine? Are you? You are? No, ma'am, you are the honorable. You are the honorable member. Oh, okay, all right. No, you are the honorable member of the National Archives Advisory Council. There's no way that you could run and go and look for James. Okay, it's all right. We'll do that. Miss Nigel, Rowan. Oh, Miss Rowan. Okay, welcome, and please make your short speech, and then we're gonna go to the practical part. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. She's gonna formally introduce herself. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Annalise Rowan. I'm the archives in this library. The conservator, sorry. I was just making sure you guys are not sleeping. I'm the conservator in this library. I actually don't like a mic because it's always in the way. I'm Annalise Rowan. My day-to-day job is to make sure that temperature has been controlled. I'm telling every time, I'm telling the people that I'm working with, our records have enemies. And unfortunately, we can't see all those enemies. And when we're looking at enemies, we're looking at our temperature control. We're looking at dust that is also damaging our records. We're looking also at the light. Where we go, you have lights on. That light is not good for that record to be on the whole day. It can't have a temporary, it can't have a permanent exposure of light. So thus, our windows always is sealed. You will not see in our archives that the window is open because you need to look at your records or any other special libraries also. Today we are going to touch temperature control, where we know that when you're in that room where your record is, your temperature need to be 20 Celsius. But you're not in that room, then your temperature need to be 18. Because in the end of the day, we don't want to create mold. When your temperature is too cold, when there's too much water in the air, that means your humidity is not correct. So when we're looking at the humidity, it can never be above 40%. Sorry, below 40% and never above 70%. When I'm talking about 70%, then it means we're in a danger zone. We are maybe in a basement, or there's a flood, there's water somewhere. So we're already in a danger zone for our records. So that means there will be mold. But luckily for Kimberley, we're in a very dry climate. So we don't struggle with mold. Our temperature is just right, but we still need to measure our temperature. We still need to make sure where there's visible emergency signs, where we can see our walls have a little bit of damp on there. Please, then we do need to look at that immediately. When our windows is open, we need to know that proper housekeeping must be in place. We need to know that when we are looking at dust, it's going to damage our records. So that means we need to come in this room. So for us working here, they know that every year we have certain rooms. We do it on an annual basis. We take each and every book from the shelf. So this book has been touched every at least 3 months. So everybody's touching these books. So every month I'm going through each and every shelf because you need to check. You must have a checklist to say, this is your preventative ways, how you are going to go according to it. In your checklist, you need to make sure that you look at your books, the temperature control, humidifying, you need on a monthly basis. Is there any damage? If there's rain, if there's anywhere where rain comes in, report it immediately because that water is damping somewhere. There's a record that might just be in damage, that might be damaged. Because as Alexia say, you don't know what is going on behind. The wall might be maybe wet. Our record is sitting there, and we want to preserve it for at least 100 years or 200 years. Because we are looking, in this library, we are looking for, of our oldest book is 1400. 1400. And then we also have the chemical reaction, because we are working with different medias. We are working with leather. You are working with wood. You are working with metal. So there's different medias that we also need to take in consideration. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Alexia, are you ready? Or can I quickly go to handling? Okay. Before I go to handling, can I also just touch a little bit on fumigation? Fumigation need to be done once a year. Once a year at the same time. In this library, we like to use it over a long weekend. So normally that time when we go for Easter holiday, Easter weekend, that is our time to go do fumigation. So the fumigation product that we are using is the New Pro. The New Pro is the best we have because we don't have textiles. We have records, we have furnitures. So there's no chemical reaction between the fumigation material that we are using and our records. So when we are looking at when you are looking at textiles, unfortunately, if you have textiles in your archives, museums, New Pro is not the product that you are going to use, because you don't want stains on your textiles, because textiles also need certain temperature. It also needs certain spaces to look after it. And then the handling process that we also want to touch is, unfortunately, we don't have enough information about handling. When you go to your book, most of the people just take the book out without thinking what is the damage doing to that book. Sometimes people will take it from the top, and there the big problem starts. So your big problem will start by every day that book has been touched on top. So there's going to be already a soft point. So brittle, that spot is going to be damaged, because we're looking at 100 years from now. Sorry, I'm using 100 years because we don't just preserve and conserve our material for today or tomorrow. We preserve it for the future. And we want our children's children to still look at that product or material. So the handling is a big problem in a lot of institutions. Nobody knows that when you carry certain documents you need, if it's older than 20 years, then you need to have protective gloves that you need to carry that document. You can't just come with your hand lotion on that document. There's already a problem. With conservators, we'll say, wash your hands before repairing your document. But don't use a glove, because you might damage the document further, because the oil, the natural oil that's on your hand, is the only oil that document need. So, unfortunately, sometimes I don't have hand lotion in my handbag, and I don't have in my office, because I don't need it when I'm at work, because I don't want to touch a record having lotion or something on there. Handling is also to do with the type of enclosures you close your document. When we are looking at manuscripts, your manuscript is your raw material. Your letters, correspondence between different people from the 18th centuries, 19th centuries is in your manuscripts. So that documents need to be in an acid-free enclosure where you know that manuscript can at least last for your children's children to see them. Go to the practical part. I think I spoke too much. So now we are going to do surface cleaning first. So before we go to surface cleaning, as I said, good housekeeping is very important. In this library, and maybe I think in all the institutions that have records, have collections, before you receive a collection, you can't just take that collection and put it with your collection. What we do here is, we have a room, a special room. We do fumigation first to make sure that there's no insects in the collection. And then after the fumigation process, we go to the cleaning process. It's a very long process because you go with brushes and you dust them off. Some people ask, do you really dust books off? Yes, we do it outside of the building because that dust is also very damaging to you as a human being. So that dust can go sit on your lungs. So we don't want the dust or mold to sit in your lungs or go in your bloodstream. So unfortunately, that's the reason why we go outside and make sure where you are sitting, there's no sunlight, too much direct sunlight on your document. And then we start doing the housekeeping before bringing that collection into your collection and then assess it and put it where it's supposed to be, on your shelves. We have different cleaning methods. So we have dry cleaning methods and wet cleaning methods. But when you only receive a document, I don't prefer wet cleaning methods because there's more, your pages have, there's more fibers in your page. There's more fibers, so you need to get that dust out there before doing any wet cleaning. So we're first going to do dry cleaning.
I wanted to share this as well.
Okay.
Remember the atlas that I spoke about? The image atlas that I spoke about.
Oh yes, I have a copy here.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I maybe just...
The damage atlas that I was talking about, which helps to show you the various types of damage that you can get on books and on records. So what we'll do is, if you can leave your contact details, we'll then be able to share this with you because it's actually available free. I don't know why it doesn't want to permit edit. I don't want to edit it. Or you want to mirror it? Okay, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Yes. Let me close this. Where is the case? Yeah, I want to bring the cursor to the side. Yeah, so this is the same thing that you're looking at now, this one. You see it's got various types of damage to the books, and these are caused by various, you see insect damage, you see biological damage, you see physical damage, chemical damage, and the whole lot. So we will share the PDF version with you. Because it's quite important for those who are looking after collections. It's quite important for you if you are going to be engaging, let's say, a conservator. You now know you can use this to actually determine what type of damage are you talking about. So assist. It can assist with that. I think you can just leave it. We're done with this part. Yeah, we can leave it. Yeah, we can leave it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so we can go to the surface cleaning. What we can share, but there are various bindings that you can come across of books. You've got cloth bindings, which is these ones. You get some that are called Lambeck bindings, or some of them, you know, those, what do they call it? I don't know whether those, is anyone who ever read those pace setters? You know, those small glue-bound novels. You know, this one, perfect binding. This one, it's the cheapest and the easiest to damage of all the bindings. So the reason why we do surface bindings is we remove the grit and dust that you find on the cover, but also because pests are very small, they also lay their eggs on there. You don't see the eggs. So the only way you can be able to get rid of those is to actually clean. And we use basically brushes, soft brushes like that. This is like, I think, rabbit hair, whatever, brush. You get quite a lot. You get these, but smaller ones in sort of art shops. You get quite a few of them. You can even use a normal paintbrush. And I see she's got one of those who shave, the old-fashioned shaving, those like Brabongani like me. But I've never used this one, the shaving brushes, and also powder brushes. You can use any brush that you can get to just remove the surface. So you want to demonstrate how we do that? No. There's a risk that you might end up polishing the book with the shoe polish.
Surface cleaning, you always clean away from your spine. Your spine piece, there can go dust in there. So you need to keep your brush away from you as a person and away from the spine piece as well. So then you just clean it. All the sides, because that side is exposed to dust. And then we also do the inside as well. Never towards you, but always away from you. So that you can make sure there's no dust coming to you.
And also to note, she's holding the book like this for you to see, but naturally it must be sitting on the table. We normally make a tray with manila paper. You make a tray to contain the dust so that it does not fly all over the place. So when you are working, you contain the dust. When you've got too much dust in there, you go dump it, you clean it, you dust the tray, and then you come back and you start again with a cleaner tray. Yeah, these are, what do you call this one again? Broomstick. Yeah, this you can pass this one around. I think some of you may have seen it. This is used, it's very useful when you've got soot. If your library is in an area where you've got too much pollution, you find that if you open books, you see lines of soot from the carbon, fumes of the cars. And that soot, you use that because it's a very good way of, because you just dab it. You'll be just dabbing it on the soot like this, and maybe in circular motions like this, then it picks up the soot from the paper. It's not damaging to the paper, and when you are done, you just go and bump it around, and then you dump the soot. And then the other one is this is grated eraser, right? We use this particular one, the Mars plastic, because it's the best type of eraser. It's not cheap, it's expensive for a reason, because the makeup of it, it's actually not cheap rubber. The normal rubber that you get, it leaves residue on your records. This doesn't leave a residue. So you use, these are modified graters. You can see if those who do cheese grating, this is your cheese grater. And it's got a container here where your cheese goes into. So this is the container where the rubber goes. Sometimes you can use, you also get those big ones. So this is another one. The only caution here is that when the rubber is getting smaller, it's easy for you to also go onto your finger. So you must always be very careful. So I don't know where you want to demonstrate how you use the eraser. Maybe you can actually go to one of the tables there closer to them so that they can see. Yeah.
I normally do this surface clean only when I'm going to paint. Because you can't clean your whole that specific area that you are going to repaint. Because you need to remove the dust from that area before you apply any acid there. So this is the rubber that is just being very good. So you just make it easier because we are working with brittle documents, we are working with old documents, we don't want to damage them. So as Alexa said, everything is circle movement. So with the circle movement, not over the work, because some of the ink might come off, not over any particles where you can damage. So just slightly soft circle movement, and if you can see there is a little bit of discoloring. So we can see there is dust coming from the page. So it's just the circle movement. But please guys, we just do this on paper surfaces and not on photographs. When we have a photograph, then we use the normal cotton wool. A very soft cotton wool or a photo wipe. Then you rather just go circle movement on that photo and then clean the surface of the photo.
Annalise, maybe you can, we can also probably explain why she's not using cotton. Because sometimes some people would use cotton, they use the grated rubber with the cotton. The problem with that is that you lose the gentleness feel, because you need to be as gentle as possible. So with your fingers, you can feel how much pressure are you applying. Because if we were to use a microscope and monitor what she's doing on what's happening to the surface of the paper here, there is always a little bit of damage that happens, even with the gentlest approach, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. And we also, like she said, avoid any doing it over the writing. And if there's soot on the writing, that's when you actually have to just take a cotton swab as well. Cotton wool, not a swab. Cotton wool, a ball of cotton. I think women, you keep those ones for your facials. You just use that to just brush off the dust from the, or otherwise use the soft brushes that we showed you earlier on. And it's very important after doing this that you must brush off the rubber, the grated eraser, because you need to take it off completely. If you are going to repair now, you might actually be ingraining the particles of the rubber into the document, and they could also start deteriorating and then trigger other deterioration, which might result in things like foxing. You know those spots that you get on some old records or books, you see those spots that looks like mold or whatever. Rubber can also start creating that, because there's some degeneration that is now happening on the spot. Right. So I don't know whether there's any one of you who want to demonstrate, to try. Should I pick?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to pick someone to try.
You decide.
You can do that. You were observing very closely. You were observing very closely, so please give her the brush first. She must follow what you did with the brushes first. You were following, right? Okay. It's simple. Conservation is very simple. Very, very simple. Yeah. 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 From the spine, right? Like that. Then you turn it. There. And then like that. So what we want to explain also while she's holding this, we only spoke about the spine. This is the spine of the book, which is the binding is actually happening. This is where everything is held together. The top part of the book is what we call the head, right? And this is actually the bottom part where the book stands is the tail. And this front part that you're looking at is the foredge, right? So whenever we are cleaning and we are talking about this, we say the foredge, the head, the tail, yeah. And if I can also explain something, because I've worked with huge books, huge volumes. These are like very small. You sometimes get this book that is this huge, and you want to clean it. So there is no harm in you holding it like this with a brush. So it's a huge book now. So you hold it because you're trying to make sure that it doesn't fall. And then you clean like that. And then you still hold it and grip it with your under your arm. And the same thing. And when you hold, please make sure as you are brushing, it's not opening up like this. Because if you are brushing and there's dust, the dust, you're going to brush it into the book. So you need to make sure that whatever you do, you are gripping it, that it's closed. So nothing then goes in there. Now, surface cleaning. What's your name again?
My name is Malifa.
Malifa.
Yes.
Yeah, Malifa is one of our demonstrators, our presenters today. So the surface cleaning, using the grated eraser. Yeah, circular motions. Perfect. You see, she got it right. You're going to lose your job, Annalisia.
But I actually need it.
Yes. Yes.
You can look at all the records.
Yep.
So I need more hands.
Yeah. So basically, this is what you can do in your own library or archive where you've got records that are damaged. And what I like about this kind of work, it's not work that you need to get somebody who is qualified. You can get interns, you can get contract workers, you can get volunteers. You just show them like we've done, and then they can just continue doing it on their own. So it's not something that you can say you don't have people to do this. Even students, school children, you can bring them and have interactive sections with them, and they can be able to do this with you on your books, especially community libraries where you've got libraries but you don't have people to do the work. You can be able to do this as well with the students. Okay, do you want to? Yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
I asked you this question earlier, I'm just going to repeat it.
Yes.
You see that book is Tales from the South Pacific.
Yes.
Why do we retain that in the Africana library? I mean, all the sources here are white. Now, you retain that book. It's not even on Africa. I'm just asking, why are you retaining books that are not only white, but are not even on Africa? It's on the South Pacific. You know, all the books here are white. Why are you preserving them? What would be, how are you going to fill the gap so that it will represent all sources and all types of history in South Africa?
If I'm looking at the specific book, it was donated to our library. Some people come in and they donate things to the library then we decide from that donation. What are we going to keep for when we have workshops to work on them that is not valuable and rare or things that we need in this area? Then we start working on them. Because sometimes you need a conservator to work on a very rare book. So we don't want to damage our rare books. That's the reason why we had these books. So it was a donation. The other side is here. Everybody must remember that this was the public library before. This was the public library before it became the Africana Research Library. So in 1887, it became the public library, and the other one was not yet there. In the public library, the records have a date where they don't keep it anymore. And they decided they're just moving with the latest books. And we could not throw the books away. So this book was still part of the old public library. So that's the reason why they kept the books. Because we don't throw all the books away, but we have to make space. If we need certain space for certain books, because we also need to keep them in maybe strong rooms or place like that. So then our most valuable books will be in a strong room, will be in certain other areas. But in this library, we do not throw books away. We keep them. Unfortunately, lately, because of storage, we only receive books that is related to South Africa, that is related to Africana and the history frame. Did I answer your question?
Maybe to add on to what she's saying, from an archive perspective, the sad history of our country is a reality. I think I remember there was a presentation yesterday at the archives where also one of the presenters spoke about the fact that these archives, they were skewed because they were telling a specific story. And so we've got those records, and they are the records that actually the only part of the history that is documented about the history of this country. Hence, we've got now the work that you are doing from oral history to make sure that we go back and try to fill the gaps by getting narrations of some of the people whose stories were left out to fill that gaps. And it's a sad history that we cannot run away from. But at the same time, it's one half of the history. If we neglect it, we're not going to have any history at all. If we neglect that past, because I think I normally look at this from another perspective, that if that history was not there, I would not know how my own ancestors suffered and how this country became to be what it is, how Africa became what it is. This is how it became what it is. So sad as it is, it's still telling me the story that is very important and crucial for me to know what actually happened then. So, but the issue now is the archivists, the people, the writers, students, researchers of today need to actually correct that. You need to build on that, because this is a very crucial point. Many years ago at the library, I was at the library, the first bibliophile conference that was held, and it was opened by the deputy minister, our former deputy minister, I think it was Bridget Mabandla, if I'm not mistaken. She came to open the bibliophile conference at the Center for the Book. And one of the remarks that she made is exactly that why should we continue supporting this library when the history, the stories that are in here are not black stories, they are only one-sided. So this is something that we really need to continue working on. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I was just trying to ask if it's just a question. The question is, in libraries we do have weeding. Does the Africana library have a process of weeding, or they don't go? If it is there, how do you do it?
Our weeding process starts now with the digitization, because some of the book, can I say the old books, there were only 3 copies published maybe. So then we rather keep it for now, because we still have the storage for it. Eh? But the weeding process in other libraries, they can't keep more than 1 copy, or they need to take them off their shelves. But for us now at the moment is, when we do digitization, we are already start to do our weeding processes. But it was never that they remove certain books from the shelves. So as the gentleman said now, Lexio said now, we need to look now in that, and we have to get more collections. Unfortunately, I know everywhere it goes according to funding to get hold of these books, because we need to purchase them. People don't just want to give their records. You need to go out and liaise with them, to ask them to give that record so that we can store it, so that we can preserve that records. It's a very difficult story when it comes to people handing over their documents. But at the moment, we are looking into the weeding process. We started with digitization in 2010 when we started with digitization. I hope I answer your question.
Any more questions? Mr. Javier?
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrew, otherwise known as Mr. Javier, working at Provincial Archives. My question relates to a career succession planning, perhaps more obviously a retention strategy, in this space. Given the fact that we have very limited conservators in the country, just to elaborate more if there's any opportunities for the young ones to move into this space, Thanks.
I'm sure he's assuming that I'm very old.
Sorry, Mr. Javier, we at the Africana Library, we do a lot of outreach to universities. So 6 weeks ago, SPU students who are studying heritage studies, they come in groups, and then we do the training with them. From your temperature control to your actual mending, from preservation methods to conservation methods. Then we teach them, and we do also workshops for people that is working. So we're looking at the professionals as well as the students, because we thought of starting with the students so that we want conservation to live on. We want people to have the knowledge of repairing their books and looking after records. So yes, for us, we are doing workshops. The workshops that is coming up now in July is on basic conservation, making boxes, and so that is, the boxes is just archival boxes for storage purposes. And then in September, we have also a workshop on disaster management, because a lot of people, institutions don't have a disaster kit where they prevent a disaster, so that they can know what is happening, what they must look after, or know what to do in case of a disaster. So we also have workshops, and Alexia and I was talking about that this morning, that we need to talk to departments, so that departments can also come to us and ask, can you guys help us in that time frame? Because the material is very expensive. That's the reason why we charge some for the people that is working. But for the students, we do not ask any money. So students that is coming in the afternoons, after school, after the students, their time that they have free, we don't charge them, but we do unfortunately charge the professionals. So that is just for the material because we need to import the material. Mr. Javier, I hope I answer your questions.
Yeah, probably also to add, one of the things that we've been talking about with the national and provincial heads of archives forum is that I've actually been tasked to develop a program for conservation training. I know there's a few provinces that have approached the National Archives to request for that training. And one of the things that we are looking at, and we were disrupted by COVID, we were going to start with preventive conservation. And as we speak, we've started going through the provinces again to assess their needs in terms of capacity development. And we've been working with them to develop a disaster plan that will be used by national and provincial. We are at an advanced stage with that. But I think what we also are looking at is to actually develop a program where we can partner even with organizations like the Africana Library, because they already have the venue and facilities to do the training. At the National Archives, we are also working to equip our facility. We've started getting equipment and material as we speak. We will then also, my idea is that we develop it as a center for conservation as well. And we've got our digitization set up as well. We've got the Western Cape that also have a fully functional conservation laboratory as well. And the idea is to work with the provinces, that the provinces can then pick up or identify one or two people from their team that we then work and develop as the National Archives through these programs, because we would want to see if you can't be telling me that you've got an archive or repository that is not doing proper preservation and conservation work, then what are you doing with the collections that you've got in your custody? Because that was the main reason why you've got is to care for them. And caring for those archival records is actually to preserve them. I've got colleagues from the film archives, their titles actually is sound preservation, film preservation. That's the titles of the jobs there, because that's the core of their work. They preserve. And we at the National Archives, we put so much effort in preservation, and we would want to see the provinces doing exactly the same, that I can go to a province and I must be able to communicate with the person who is charged with the responsibility to preserve. And that there's still a gap on that. So we need to actually start working with the provinces and even government departments that have got there are some certain governments that have got archives of their own. We've been working with Home Affairs. We assisted in setting up their preservation at Home Affairs, and I know the people who work there, they were part of our staff. We trained them. So yes, the issue of capacity, this is a dying skill. I can tell you I was just told that one of the people that I thought was still alive, one of the conservators, I always used to say there's probably 3 or 4 conservators left. I didn't know that actually one of the persons passed away. So it's a skill that is disappearing.
Thank you, Johan Pieterse. You actually just said what I wanted to ask is, what is the collaboration between the different departments? And what we're looking at today is demonstrating preservation of paper-based, but in archives there's actually a lot more. So is the whole program is then actually looking holistically at all archives and all archival materials?
Yeah, I think, do you want to talk about the film archives as well? The efforts that has been making with training and all that?
Okay, we've got an institution called the National Film, Video and Sound Archives. And the main responsibility of the institution is to preserve all audiovisual material in terms of film, sound, videos, dicta belts, audio tapes, any video format that you can think of material that is made in and about South Africa. And the unit or the institution has got about 4 sections, if I'm We've got the legal deposit section. We've got the video and film section. We've got outreach and client services. And then we've got the sound preservation section. And the institution has been going through, or employees of officials of the institution have been going to various training opportunities. Unfortunately, most of them are not available in South Africa. But if and when an opportunity is availed in South Africa and funds are available for colleagues or officials to attend, then they do attend. But one of the critical and very important training sessions that I unfortunately became part of was a training partnership between the Department of Arts and Culture, National Archives, and the French National Audiovisual Institute to digitize the dicta belts of the Rivonia trial. But it required that funds be made available, partnerships be forged with the institution, and for colleagues to actually travel to France, get the training, come back, and get the equipment, revise what they were trained on, and then start doing the work. Because the other flip side of things is that even the equipment that we use for digitization, none of it is produced in South Africa. I stand to be corrected, but from my knowledge, even the cameras that Bongani and James are using now to record this, the microphones we are using, most of the systems that we have are not produced and manufactured in South Africa. So it requires that whatever equipment that we buy for digitization, we need to find strategic ways of making sure that if we're buying a, what is that big machine that is used for the flatbed? Is it the Zeichel? Is it the Zeichel? Zeichels, I think they're produced in Germany or in Netherlands and all of that. It requires that if we buy that equipment, we should have a partnership with the manufacturing company to say, look, after 5 years, you must come here, at least 3-5 years, you must come, service the equipment, and then go back. I don't know how much that costs, because if you take the machine, you take it to Germany or whatever, it's more money and all of that. But the flip side of things is that there are no training opportunities in terms of the work that we do. As far as I know, even the training that Alexio is actually doing here, you didn't receive it here. I think he studied in London to get all of this. So it's maybe something that the National Archives Advisory Council should also start thinking about, and how we can forge partnerships with universities to actually, start doing some of these things and all of that. But be that as it is, as part of the continuation in terms of the training, and through the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package, and the budget or the money that was made available, the Film Archives managed to buy some equipment to digitize the film collection. And as part of that, we managed to squeeze in, preservation equipment, the digitization hub that they recently started. It is part of that. But we also managed to squeeze in to get an opportunity to buy more equipment also for the sound preservation unit, so that we continue with the work in terms of digitizing the Truth and Reconciliation audio tapes. So it's always a bit of a tricky one, but we need to continue doing this work, because if we don't do it in the next 10, 15, 20 years, some of the formats and books and everything may not be available. What about 50 years from now? What about 60? What about 100 years from now? So we need to do these kind of trainings, teach the ones who are younger, so that they continue the work that we are doing and we are trained on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is my last question. I was just asking, in Africana Library, do you go with card cataloging, or do you do electronic cataloging? And if is that, how do you do it are you cataloging it here in Africana or somewhere, then it comes ever ready, or do you do the process in Africana Library?
Sorry, sir. Yes, we do. We do it in the library. We have 2 software systems, which is the DBTeX. So it's on the computer. We store the DBTeX, and then for scanning, we also have a Bukai scanner where we start scanning. The scanning cataloging is also on the M files. So we have 2 programs running that is online. But unfortunately, because we have a closed system, because everything is run through our IT system, We are part of the Soplaiki municipality, so everything runs through them. Card cataloging, we still have card cataloging, and we do our indexing and in the library. I hope I answer your question. I just wanted to add that we don't just have workshop on the paper-based material. We also have workshops on our furnitures. Unfortunately, there's nobody that doing on textiles, but we had a workshop on our seal work 2 years ago, and then also on our furnitures. Next year, we are doing again on the furnitures because we need to make sure that it's been treated properly and also make sure that it is the correct material is being used so that we can, because most of this chairs is come out of the 1800s, out of the 1900s, and we need to preserve them as well.
Okay, thank you. I think now we can, what we're gonna do now, can we show them various types of protective enclosures before we then get them to do this? What tea time is ready? Okay. Oh yes, okay. Yeah, okay. Where are they? It's Unisa.
My name is Ntombi Aise. I come from Unisa Press. Actually, my supervisor was the one who was supposed to give away these books. So we're here to give away these books, and we've spoken about the others. So we, as Unisa Press, would like to collaborate with you guys. If anything that you need, please do contact us. I will leave our details there with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Unisa Press. We appreciate the kind donation. Thank you very much.
And then James is going to organize, I think, a better photo session with them. Is that correct, James? With the book donation, right? Shall we take a 5 minutes break? 5 minutes break. On my watch. I get the program director. No, wait. The time now is 10:50. Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes. Make sure to push the program a little bit, and we should have lunch around 1 o'clock, 1:15, so that at 2 o'clock we start. And at least around 3:30 we should be done, because we can't keep the learners later than that. Otherwise, the Demodise will also shy. All right? So please bear with me. I think the more practical work is going to be done, demonstrations by the colleagues who are doing this. And but before we start, I don't know, Mr. Petersa, you said you had a question. I don't know, do you want to ask it now? Okay. Mr. Petersa has a question for Mr. Motsi. Maybe you can give him that opportunity to ask the question, and then after the question, we do the practical work.
Hello again. Hello. What is the collaboration between libraries and archives in preservation? Because generally it's two different things. And what I gather is the archive doesn't have conservationists. So do you work together? Do you form one team? That's the one quick question. And then I see there's a lot of these books that's closed with a sleeve. Is that for preservation? Thanks.
Okay. Actually, libraries have got archives have got conservators. From where I'm standing, this is one library that has a conservator that I know of. The other conservator that I know of is working at the Western Cape Archives, Mary Miniki, and myself from the National Archives. The National Library does not have conservators, and I can say that because I was there. I used to work there. Since I left, they never replaced that position. They did have bookbinders there. I went last year in October in Cape Town. The laboratory, we had one of the best laboratories in the country at the library. And when I got there, I saw equipment and very high-tech equipment, actually, that has deteriorated. And I was asking the guy who's working there currently, who is a bookbinder. So I said, so what is happening here in the laboratory? The laboratory is closed. And he said, no, I don't even know what this is and what this is. So I had to spend some time showing them how those things work. And he was so surprised. So to answer your question, the collaboration is that actually after that visit, I did write to the National Library to say I'm asking for them to actually do something, because one of the biggest concerns that I have was that the chemicals that I left there, and we're talking about in 2002 when I left the library, there are some chemicals sitting there in the chemical store that have now, some of them, they've been leaking, acids and alcohols leaking, and I raised this, that it's a serious risk. So I was asking them if they could be able to allow me to maybe to go back to Cape Town and assist them in cleaning up that place, in getting it ready, and we can then use it as a center for training, because it's got facilities, beautiful tables, workbenches, a beautiful laboratory, but it's not being used. But since last year, November, when I did communicate with them, they never responded to my email, and there's nothing much I can do. But we did work with them on the PEST project. I know they are very keen on working with us, but for some reason, somehow, we don't seem to be finding each other. But there is that desire to collaborate and work together, because we are the two institutions. It's the library, the National Library, the National Archives, and the museums. We should actually work together, because we are all being funded by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, and we get our budget from the same budget. The other two are semi-autonomous, whereas the National Archives is sitting directly in government. So we should be able to actually steer things up from within. Hence, you heard in the presentation that Mr. Muhadi was presenting yesterday that even the policy on digitization, we are going to be the custodian of that. We are going to be the depository or the backup repository for the digitization as well. So there's a lot of things that we need to look into. But yeah, collaboration is the only way we can be able. And I was talking to her that I'm actually thinking that there must be a way we collaborate with the Africana Library, because they've got a setup, they've got a conservator, and we need to take advantage of that and work together and develop something that we can use to develop skills in the country. And then coming to you spoke about, you mean these ones? Oh, these ones, ne? Yeah, when you've got, there's actually one that is out of the box, of the shelf that is there. There's a book that is wrapped in a wrapper. Yeah, you can.
The wrapper is it's acid-free material. The book is damaged, and we don't want to just leave it on the shelf. Unfortunately, I'm the only conservator here. So it's better for me to wrap the book so that I know I need to come back to that book. It needs urgent attention. So that's the reason why certain books is wrapped. So it's just the indication for me to know that these are the books that I need to attend to first. And I protect it also against dust and lightning. So not to deteriorate further or to get any damage further. That's also the reason. Working together with Sports, Arts and Culture. Previously, we got an amount of money, which was a grant funding from Sports, Arts and Culture that helped us with these workshops. But 3 years ago, before COVID, they just told us we can't help you guys anymore. The arrangement with that grant was that the staff of the archives and libraries come for any workshops for free. So that planning fell through. We don't have that planning in place anymore. But last year, we had a workshop. We have at least 2 to 3 workshops per year. And we invite them. They came to the workshop. So Martha, who was the person, came, and the other boy didn't come, the other man didn't come because of personal reasons. So Martha came, and Martha and Nancy always attend the workshops for them to enhance all these workshops and training. Yes, so we do have still that arrangement where they come and do training. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, so now you have in front of you plastic. And that plastic is not just your normal plastic. You've got bigger pieces than the one she's got now. Did you cut yours? No, you didn't. Or that one was for the school students, for the school children. Yeah. So you've got this one. Yeah. So she's going to demonstrate how to make a mylar enclosure or plastic enclosure for your paper records, especially when you've got letters or certificates or any sort of agreements that you want to protect. This is not your normal polyester kind of plastic. This is actually archival plastic. This is mylar. And unfortunately, you don't get it locally as well. There are two types that are used for archives. It's mylar or Melinex, one or the other. And they come in different thicknesses or microns. This would be your what?
This one is this one I used was the 25 micron.
25 micron, yes, yeah.
Because it's a very thinner one.
Yeah.
And then we normally on the other books we use 50 micron. And it's
Yes.
very heavy,
Yeah. Yeah. So there are various ways. There are two ways in which you can be able to make plastic envelopes like this. One is there are types of machines that you can use. There is one which is an ultrasonic welder, which actually seals plastic, right? And then you also have what they call the polyester welder, which is a heat. The ultrasonic welder, it uses ultrasound to weld. So it's almost like a needle that moves very fast and seals the document, the plastic together. The other one is a polyester welder, which also you push it against the platen of the machine, and the platen is heated, so the edge gets melted and fuses together. Then it's welded. The third one is the one that you can do with double-sided tape, which is what Annalise is going to demonstrate now. So I think you can then watch her closely. I'll hold the microphone to her mouth while she's working.
The Mylex enclosure is not like there's a difference between laminating and there's a difference between encapsulation. So what you guys are doing now is encapsulation. Encapsulation have spaces in between where the acidic of the document can be set free. With your lamination, there's no spaces that is open, so that means deterioration will happen quicker. That means that we don't do laminating in an institution, an archival institution or any special library or libraries. So the double-sided that is in front of you, we can use, because it's the Scott brand. It's a Scott brand tape. It helps with the encapsulation that we are going to have to do here. So you stick it on the one piece side. So you will see it's not a big piece that I'm putting there. So I still need that spaces in between. So when we put our document in there, unfortunately I don't have a small enough one for this one. There will still be breathing spaces for your document. Yes, if you seal it, yes, because of the acidic that is in the document. And your page is made out of certain chemicals also. So the lignin in there needs to get breathing space.
And also to make a note, in archives, we don't laminate archival records. And when I talk about lamination, I'm talking about the plastic lamination. We don't use that. And in your own home, I do not encourage you to laminate your certificates because many people think that that's the best way to protect the certificates. It's the worst way to protect your certificates. Because once you have done that, you've converted your certificate into a plastic certificate. And when it deteriorates, there's nothing you can do about it. So we normally, if we have got to laminate archival records, we use certain heat set tissue, which is the basic term that is used, but there are various brand names like Crompton tissue, area bonded fiber, and a whole lot of other things that you then apply a tissue over the document. It strengthens the documents, but you can still see through the writing. In the event that there is something happening, you can be able to remove, delaminate that, but that's the archival term. But even that method is being used less and less and less. The one that is used now more often is you use a starch-based lining, where you use paste and Japanese tissue, you line it. In the event that you want to remove it, you can then just dampen it or use a humidifier, and then you remove the tissue.
Okay, so if everybody got a piece of the double-sided tape, then your one side will look like this, where we'll take off the other side so we can paste the sides together.
So the first thing that you need to do is to fold this in half. That is your first order. No, I had not folded. I wanted them to fold them together. If you can, do you want to demonstrate how they can fold? I'm sure people have folded paper, but plastic might be a bit slippery. So she can demonstrate how you can fold the plastic together.
What works for me normally is to take it to the next corner and then align it from there. Sorry, I need to walk on a flat this time.
Yeah.
Yes? No, you don't cut it in half, you're just folding it.
Yeah, she's working with a different size. Don't worry about that.
But if you look at my size, it's very small for a document.
Yeah.
So your malinex will be a bigger size. Yeah, so you just fold it in half.
You're not going to get it perfect the first time around. Don't worry about that.
So we align the corner.
Yeah.
And then you flatten it. We have various tools that can help you also, like bone
folders.
With your fingers or with your bone fold.
These ones. Is there anyone who is struggling that I can come to help? Yeah. You can also use the bone folder. You can use the brush, even a pen, like that. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I usually use my hands because
Yes.
I'm processing at work, so
Yeah.
it's work faster.
Just help you like this. This one, I don't know whether you've got those who love cooking. You know those non-stick pans and pots? They're made out, they're sealed with what? Teflon. This is a Teflon folder. So you can see if I do this, you don't hear a sound. It doesn't scratch your plastic. Whereas the bone folder, it's made out of the bone. I won't tell you which animal, but it's made out of a bone. So the lesser you know, the better. But yeah. When we learn to do conservation work, we are taught basic things: how to fold paper, how to identify the sizes of paper, how to identify, these all things like where does A1 starts, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, you name it, and the different thicknesses of paper. So we do all those things. And folding, what you have done is the first stage, one of the basic things that you need to learn. So what, now you all have folded now. Okay, then she'll take you to the next step. Yeah, what is the size of what do you recommend? Maybe 3 centimeters long?
Yes.
These ones.
Yes.
So it's quite big. So you might have, if you're going to have these pieces, maybe you might have 4 or 5 for the long side and 2 on the short side. Yeah. And keeping in mind that the idea is that your document, when it's inside the plastic sleeve, it must be able to breathe. It needs to breathe because paper is very hygroscopic. It expands and contracts. If you are too tight, if you make it too tight, it's going to expand into the glue, into the adhesive, and it gets stuck onto the adhesive. So when you are doing this, Annalise, you must use if you are going to do it for this one, I will demonstrate with this one. You can put it in there. So you put it in there, and then you then determine, sometimes this is how I work. I cut strips of cardboard. Let's say this kind of material. I cut strips maybe 0.5 centimeter. I put them against this document on all sides to mark the gap between the glue, the double-sided tape and the document. So if you want to have like a 0.5 centimeter gap between, so you just put those spacers. We call them spacers. So you then put your double-sided tape on the other side of the spacer. So you guarantee that your paper has got space to breathe. Okay. So do you want to try? Who is going to be the quickest? Who is done already? Johan is done. Johan is done already. That's the idea. But also remember, if it's not straight, you're gonna have ripples. You're gonna have something like this, and it's always before you stick it on, you must brush out the air, flatten it nicely, because otherwise you're gonna have something that has got like wrinkles on it, and those wrinkles can be such a problem. Because it's plastic, they could even damage your document because they become a bit hard on your document. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Is everybody done? Not yet.
Okay. They're waiting for scissors.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. What? Oops, sorry. Yeah. What? What you can do to avoid holding the scissors. already know now how many strips you want, right? Then you're not holding the scissors and the tape. Then you pass it on to the next person. You see? So I've cut this for you. Yeah. Anyone who is still waiting for the scissors? Okay. Right. We're waiting for the scissors.
The enclosure also help you with the handling process. Now you don't take the document with your bare hands. So you still have that enclosure when you need to transport it or give it to the next person. Some people always ask, why do you treat paper with plastic? It is for the handling purposes as well, and because of the type of material that we are dealing with.
I hope nobody's missing these brass door handles, right? These are brass door handles. You know those old ones? I hope nobody's missing them. I know nobody's missing them because they are mine. To improvise, I use those ones just to keep my things down. So what you then do is, for instance, you've got the door handles like that. You can even use any little weights that you've got. You put it like that, then you put your. You can then put your, and also, where is that ruler? Do we have the metal ruler? Just to show you some of the techniques that you can use when you're working alone, that helps you to keep things straight, not skew. I also use for instance, for her, I'm going to do this. Let's say she wants to keep this thing straight, aligned, and nicely aligned. So you can put your ruler like that, and then you put your other one there. So that guarantees you a straight edge, right? Yeah. It takes a lot of practice before you can actually get to master it.
Under the ruler, you can. What I normally do is I put sandpaper under my ruler, so that when I work on an object, then I know it's not going to be slippery if it's like the plastic that we need to cut. That is normal masking tape that I use also there.
Yeah. Anyone who is done? Oh, by the way, they said whoever does the best is going to win a book, isn't it?
Yes.
And just for advice, you might struggle because you are sitting down. This is not work that you do sitting down. It's work that you actually need to be able to access. You can see she's standing, I'm standing, because I can see some of you are struggling to reach further. So always feel free, to move around if you're doing this work. There you go. She's done. Yeah, when you are doing this now, do you want to then, before you seal it? Yes.
No, you can do.
Oh, so because remember, we are sealing this inside, the document inside. So before you actually close it the way she has done, your document must now be inside. Yeah. Your document must be inside. There's space. There's a lot of empty spaces here. Yeah. UNISA, they are like, they're not touching these things. Eh? They're wearing gloves. Okay. Done.
Yes, no?
The corners, yes. Yes, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I've just thought of something. You notice that this plastic, it can be like a razor. It can cut you. So be very, very careful when you're working with this, especially plastic and paper. It can cut you. So when you're doing the conservation training, one of the things that we get trained on is the occupational health and safety relating to conservation. So you work with sharp tools, you work with chemicals, you work with heavy things, and you also work with fragile things. Yeah, you are a natural. You're a natural. Yes. Johan, how is programming doing? So you've got to start all over again. Yeah. Yeah. No, because she was lucky because I added on a few tricks. So you can use the same tricks. So you see, hers is very straight, and because she followed the tricks. And this is also interesting. These are weights. Me, I've got door handles. She's got some weights. I think it's some lead in here. Wrapped it in some sort of felt, and so that it doesn't scratch things. So you can put it to weight things down, to keep things down. But when we also work on this kind of work, I rely a lot on the cutting mat. I don't know whether any of you know a cutting mat. You can see it's got lines, it's graduated. If I want to make things straight, I just put that plastic on there. I follow the lines nicely, and you never go wrong. You never go wrong. Okay.
The last part is just to...
Just don't seal any documents that you're going to want to use. You won't be able to take them out. Yeah, if you seal it, then it's sealed out. How are you going to take it out? If you're going to use that document, don't seal it in. You can just take maybe one page of it so that you can be able to read. Take out one page. Are you happy? Are you happy? Can I assess your work? Let's see how straight it is. Mr. Javier, can you measure if this thing is straight? Can you just check if it's straight? No, but you've got the idea. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you see hairs now, because I spiced the hairs up with the ideas to make it straight, you see, because she used the ruler. Yeah. You can still, because it's too big for your document, you can still cut it and make it a bit straighter if you want. Yes, if you want, yeah.
Everybody's done.
Yeah. You can take them through the... Yeah.
Do anybody need some weights?
No, it's good.
Okay. If we point here, it's just to cut the corners, just because it can cut yourself or with handling process, then we just make it, just cut the corners a little bit so that it can't cut nobody by handling the enclosure.
I've got a very interesting tool to do that. You want me to show you those ones?
Do you have one? Yes. There is also other tools that you can buy. Then you don't need to physically use the scissor and cutting that edges. He's just going to show us quickly. This tool.
Tools. You see the... Yeah, these are just small carving tools. So what you do with these ones, you can then just... do you want to do one corner? Yeah. One is just a square corner where you nip off the little corner and then it comes off if you wanted a square corner. But this one is rounded, so the rounded one works much better, because when you saw when she was cutting with the scissors, she was making it rounder. So you see there. So these you get them from also from an art shop. They're just, you can pass them around. You can pass it around. This one not much. It's going to give you exactly a square corner, which is also sharp. But the rounded one is much better. Yeah. Yeah. For those who do like wood carving and decorative things, they use these kinds of tools. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so if you are done with the plastic, we're going to move to the next project, because we want to give you a bit of time for questions and also show you a few more examples of protective enclosures, which we do not have time to make, but you can be able to see what they look like. And yeah, so is there anyone who still need a minute or two? Okay. Right. So in terms of the envelopes, we're also going to be using archival quality card. I'll say card, because it's not like, it's thicker than the normal your normal bond paper. It's archival. It's also imported. And thanks to Annalise, she's already pre-cut them. I think she's got a die, you know, that they normally use to cut this. So this is also, if you want to protect something that you don't want to be exposed to light. For instance, after having done that to your document, then you can then put also, you can put everything into an envelope like that. So she's going to demonstrate the envelope making that envelope. You can take them through, Annalise.
It's easy to use a ruler. That's why there's rulers in front of you. The ruler also helps with the scoring process, just to make sure that the envelope is straight and the line is straight.
Yeah. Now the
Start with a big piece. If you look at your envelope, your piece of paper in front of you, we need to crop a line here through that is not right through. So we just need to use the ruler and just bend it a little bit, because we don't want that piece to, we don't want to cut it off, but we're going to use the ruler just to bend it over.
Okay.
Here's again a special tool. You don't need the bone folder. You can also just use your hands and just make a line, use the ruler for a line there. It's just to make it easier for you to bend. I'm using my fingers because not everybody has a bone folder in front of them. So now you're going to have a line there, and then you can now you have your line. And you can just, but we're not going to use this part. We're not going to glue this part now. We're only going to glue the outside. The one side, the top part, you're going to see it looks different to the rest of the other piece part. So that side we leave it open for the document to go in and out. Yes, in this bag there's brushes for you to use. This bag, you can use the number 8, yeah, anyone. I think it's the number 8 or number 10. It all depends on the is there 8 and 9? Okay. 8 and 9. So we can use the stick. So we can use the stick because it's not a big thing that we need to glue. So the sixth one will be okay. The white one is the alkaline wood glue. We use the alkaline wood glue. You can use it because you find it locally. But when we use it on different items, we can also make it a 50 so that it's more reversible. That is where the methyl cellulose comes in. But at now we just use it plain. Because we're not going to use a lot. We're not going to use the quantity we're using is not too much. Before we glue, can we first bend all the pieces that need to be bent? Okay.
Can they? I'm just thinking because I'm thinking like also like I'm a non-trained composer. Could I use double-sided tape for this as well?
Yes, you can use double-sided tape. You can use double-sided tape.
But is it advisable?
For me, I will not use any sellotape. Because some people use sellotape on certain documents. The double-sided is a little bit different than the normal sellotape that you have. Insects is also coming towards your sellotape. But your double-sided tape has other as I can
Yes,
say,
it is.
ingredients, yes, in there. So as he was asking, can you use the double-sided tape with that method? I normally don't use the double-sided tape, I use the glue. But we can use it for now because it's gonna, do you feel we need to use it now?
No, not really. You see, I was thinking like somebody who has never done this and who is curious. So I'm trying to say, rather use glue than double-sided tape, because the double-sided tape, you see, if we use it and you hold this against the light, you're gonna see it's gonna stain your envelope. That gum is gonna seep through your. You see, double-sided tape works better with plastic because it cannot seep through plastic, but on paper it will melt and seep through, because it does have the residue that goes through your paper. So I was asking this question because I know that somebody might be curious, why can't you just use double-sided tape? So that we can actually advise you not to use any, yeah. Okay. She's folding the sides first, and then she'll show you which sides.
Please don't use glue yet.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
You know, there's always a temptation to get done, and so you know, I'm gonna share a secret or something that an experience that we've had. We had EPWP guys who had never worked in an archive, and I was given this group to work with them, to do conservation work with them, and we had a 1945 electoral map of Transvaal. You can imagine how rare and very sort of valuable that is. And it was measuring, it measures 5 meters by 3 meters. And I got these guys, I'm the only one who knows what needs to be done. And I said, guys, the floor is vinyl. We don't have tables big enough, so we thoroughly cleaned the floor. And I said, let's work. If you come to the archives, I'll show you that map. They did a perfect job. And you know how they did it? I would demonstrate and I say, don't do anything beyond what I've shown you. Just do that which I've shown you. So I'm saying this thing because it's exactly what Annalise is doing. Before she takes you to another step, don't go to do what she has not shown you. Don't go ahead of the trainer because you don't know what she's going to do next. So, okay. If anybody has spoiled theirs, we still have extra folders here. And if you feel like you want to do a second one later, you can still, you are free to do that. Okay.
So everyone's envelope is just folded on this side and the other two sides. Please don't confuse yourself. Don't fold the top one. Because otherwise, it's fine. We need to fold it. But just for the glue. Just so that we know we don't glue this spot because it's not folded.
And Annalise, the top one is the one that looks a bit wider than the bottom one.
You will see on the table there is great chipboard. I would like you, before we glue, that you glue on top of the grain chipboard, because it do not just take the glue, but it takes the water if you use maybe other glue that is water-based. So that can also absorb the grain chipboard. Because we don't want the glue to stick on something else.
Yeah. And this is where we see those who take a bit of sort of extra water, because your hand will not be very steady. You need a steady hand for this kind of work. So if you had a shaky hand, you might want to just go and stabilize yourself a little bit before continuing. And this work, colleagues, it's also regarded as hazardous kind of work, because you work with chemicals, you work with tools, sharp tools, you work with heavy things that could drop and fall on you. So always be very careful. We have not shown you and given you the tools that we use to cut these things. They are very sharp tools, and we don't want any one of you to cut yourselves. And there should be actually a first aid box somewhere nearby wherever you've got this kind of work being done.
Before we go any further, you can fold it flat before gluing. Fold your pieces flat. So then this side is now in the inside. So when you close your document, this is going to be your end product.
Mm-hmm.
So the glue will just be on that piece of steel.
So those who had glued, I'm sure they glued somewhere else. Yeah. Okay, I can go around and assist.
So I have glue on my brush.
Okay.
So I feel this glue is actually enough on my brush. Sorry, where can I sit? Yes, Did anybody start gluing? Did it start gluing?
Unless if it was sitting for a while and it was making yeah, it probably yeah, it's settled.
The reason why is for when your documents or people is using your documents and it goes against something, it can go loose. So that is why the glue, you glue the flaps, their side and the other flap there. It's just so that you know that it stay longer, the glue is there.
It must be on top, not inside.
Yes, it's on top, it's not inside.
Not inside.
Those white ones,
So we're doing it wrong.
You also did it
See,
wrong.
it is right.
Yes.
Outside.
One for you. You can have this one. You can try it.
That's the last one.
Yeah. That, it's a chemical. You still have to complete this one.
we are going to do now, I'm just waiting for Annalise. You normally come across these kinds of damages to your record, to your books, or to your... Forget this is a book. This is just a document, a page that is torn, right? And we're going to try and repair, you see, these pages, these tears. So we're going to show you just simple, straight, easy way of repairing these things. Simple, but unfortunately the material also is still a bit of a challenge. We use, does anyone know what this paper is called? Japanese paper. You also get tissue that looks thinner than this. So depending on the weight of the paper or the thickness of the paper that you're going to repair, you get different thicknesses, and they come in different shades, different fiber types. So this one we're going to use, which one is this? Is this Kitakata? Which one is Kitakata? Yeah. Don't worry about the name, it's Japanese name, so don't repeat it, don't try to repeat it. In paper, there's an element that when you're doing conservation training, there's an element that is very crucial in paper. When you're working with paper, it's called the grain direction. The grain direction, the simple way to explain it is those who have played soccer. If somebody comes to you when you with the ball and then they hit you here, you break because they've gone against the grain. But if your leg is lying down and somebody falls on you like that, chances are you will not break. But if you're, because there is resistance when you're like this and then it breaks. So grain direction, when paper is being made, there are various types of ways in which paper fibers are put, pulp is extracted to make a sheet of paper. Either they use the normal handmade, which is this one, where they've got a tray or a font, which actually they use. They scoop the pulp from the vat, and then they sift it like this. So as they are sifting it like this, what happens, they go like this in this direction like this. As they're doing this, the fibers are aligning themselves against the, how do I put it? If you're going like this, the fibers align themselves in this direction. So your paper, the fiber direction or the grain direction will be that direction of the fibers, right? So cross grain will then be when you're going across the grain. When you were folding your plastic, I didn't want to say this initially, and when you're folding the envelopes, you would see one side, you got a very nice fold. Some plastics you struggled. When you're folding, you even had the sound like as if it's gonna crack, right? It was against the grain. Every material that has been made by a machine or by hand has got a grain direction, right? So the reason why I'm explaining this is when books are being made, the paper also has grain direction. So when you are repairing the paper, the tissue that you're going to use to repair and the paper that you are repairing, the grain direction must be same. Because if it's against, that's when you see your repair, after repairing, you see the document looking like this. Because there's now resistance, there's competition, because paper expands and contracts. When the temperature and the humidity levels changes, it changes. So what we are going to do is, how do you tell the grain direction? I don't know whether some of you can see. If I hold this against the line, you're going to see a line. Those are the lines. On the font that they scoop, the tray that they scoop, it's got those lines. And those are the lines that you are seeing. And usually those lines actually inform you which direction the grain is going. So if the line is running like this, it means the grain direction for this one is going in this way. There are various ways of testing grain direction, which we are not going to go into. So for me to be able to repair this, I just want enough tissue to hold the tear together, right? There are various ways of taking. You can't cut with a knife or with a scissors. Because what you want is if you cut with a knife, you are creating a sharp edge. That becomes also a cutting edge. So you're creating a new problem. So we don't cut with a knife. We've got tools that we use for cutting. We use a bodkin or an awl. Some people call it awl, some people, or a needle, you know, a normal needle. And you also have what we call a water brush. This, it's got water in here, and that brush, water comes out at the tip. You can see the water dropping there. So when we use these two is to cut. When we are cutting, we want to make sure the fibers are not cut sharp. So I'm going to be cutting. I hope the students that I've chosen are looking. The tears, these tears are not that long, so I'm just going to break this into a small piece like this. And I'll cut using I'm going to cut with the needle. I just probably need just like 2-3 millimeter wide strip. And what do? I run my needle just to score it. And then I have to tease these things apart, the strip apart. It looks from a distance, it looks like it's very sharp cut or whatever, but when you look at it through the microscope, you see the fibers are not, the edges are not. If you can pass this around, you can see the edge that I cut, you can see there's fibers, right? So that's using the needle. I can also use it's just that my brush, this water brush is a little bit older, so it's no longer as sharp, the tip is no longer as small, as neat as it used to be. But and you can see I'm using a blotting paper, because a blotting paper helps to absorb the excess moisture. See, I've drawn the line with the water brush. So along that line, I then pull these things apart. It breaks because it's wet, right? It breaks nicely. You can also see, if you can pass this one, this one is even better. You can see now. So those are the ways you can be able to cut your tissue for repairs. Don't use a scissors, don't use a sharp knife or whatever. You use this other method. You can even make your own cutting tool. You can grind a piece of wire to the right thickness. Oh, sorry. Oh. So your needle also must not be sharp. It needs to be a blunt needle. So don't use a needle. This needle for me it's a bit too sharp for my liking. So I'm gonna rely on this. And because there's excess water coming, I just use the blotting paper to absorb the excess water. And remember what I spoke about, if you've been having a bit of a good night last night, your hand becomes very unsteady. And you don't want to do this with a very unsteady hand because you're going to make a mess. And I can guarantee if I give any of you this to say, do as I did here, you will see how difficult it is. It's not as easy. So I've done that. The glue that we're going to use, Annalise, how did you prepare? We're going to use methyl cellulose. What was the percentage of preparation for 10%, 5%? So which means 50 grams, 5% is what? 50 grams to, well, let's say 5 grams, 5% will be 100 grams to like 5 milliliters of water. Yes. Yeah. So what we, and this is what I do, Annalise, you might do it differently. When I do this repair, guys, colleagues, I I've got this material. You can use also wax paper, but I use this. It's called Bondina or polyester web, or it's got various names, right? Holitex. It's got different names. Then I put it in here. You only have one piece of blotting paper. Okay. So you must also have blotting paper. The reason why we always use blotting paper helps you to control the moisture from your glue, from whatever you want to, so that it does not leave water stains, because what do you call watermarks? Because it's water-based. If the paper absorbs that, it might disturb the impurities, and then you see the tide, what we call tide marks. When something has been wet and it's dry, then you see those marks. So the trick that I use to avoid that also is this one. I don't glue my tissue, right? Other people will glue the tissue. I glue the board, exactly this board. I put my glue on here. I hope you see it properly there. Are you seeing clearly? Right? I've applied my glue. I then put my tissue on the glue. The reason why I do this is this tissue is very clever. It's only going to pick up enough glue that it needs. It can hold and it can carry. Then I'll pick it up, lift it, and making sure that my tear is aligned nicely, then I position the tissue over it. And I normally use the foot of my hand and just do that, right? That's one thing. And this brush is here. Where are those other? There is one that is a bit thicker than, or stronger. Okay, I'll use this one. Then I use this one. The reason why I'm using this brush to do this, to tap it like that, is I don't want there to be a sheen. Because when it's dry, you might see a sheen, a shiny, whatever, because the glue itself leaves that sheen. So then when I'm done that, I put, where is that weight? Yeah, blotting paper and a weight. I'm going to put blotting paper and a weight. Where that's the one that has got the covered weights. Those little weights that are covered. Thank you. This one. Then I put it on the repair itself. I leave it for a few minutes. So the reason why I glued the board, not the tissue, is to avoid excess moisture on the tissue. Number one. And the drying time also is reduced. Right? Any comments? Questions? Okay.
Will you do the other side as well, or only one side?
Yeah, we can. It depends. If you do it effectively, the reason why you leave it to dry is you want to check to see if it's good enough. So if you feel that it's a little bit still weak, because you see it when it's dry, if you still see the tear is still visible, showing clearly, then you need to do the other side. Yes?
So it's the material that you are talking about, do you then shop or a specific
problem. That's our biggest problem. It's not material that you get easily. Yeah.
Just the wax paper?
Yeah, wax paper, you can get it. Brushes, you can get them. You can, instead of methyl cellulose, you can also use wheat starch paste, but you've got to cook it. There's a particular recipe. Yes, there's a particular recipe that you've got to use But because it's food for insects, we try not to use it. Methyl cellulose is different. It does not have food value for pests, right? And brushes, you can get them. The tissue, you can't get them locally, unfortunately. And wax paper, you can get it. Those are the only things you can get here locally.
I don't know with craft shops, maybe they have blotting paper, but I never visited craft shops. Because the last time we used that paper, they didn't have any blotting
Yeah.
But our board, grape shop board, we get it locally.
Yeah. Where's your, that,
Phone folder. What do you want?
the Teflon one? Where's that? Oh, you can pass me that one. You can pass me, no, the block. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. Right. So that's the quickest way of repairing a tear. But if there's many tears on here, you're going to have to line the whole page. So you have to cut your Japanese tissue a bigger piece. And that one now you can't use this method because it's a bigger piece. So what you do is you put it on, you can even put it on the wax paper. You can glue the wax paper. You take your piece of tissue that you've chosen, the size that you want, you put it on the glue, you take another piece of wax paper, you put it over the tissue paper, you rub it gently, you take off the wax paper, the top one. No, you flip it over. You remove the wax paper, the first one, and using the top wax paper to carry the tissue paper. Now the glue is on the other side now. So you just bring it and then you put it over your document. That way you don't end up with wrinkles and your tissue paper falling all over the place. But those are now way advanced kind of techniques that you need more time. But for this particular, this is just to show you that this is how we repair records. We can do, if we had time, we could have repaired a spine of a damaged, or hinges, a book whose covers are falling apart. Sometimes you open your book, those who go to church, your Bible is falling apart, the hinges are falling apart. How we repair those things, so we use various techniques to do that. But this is very basic. And so what I think it's probably dry enough that I can I have a scissors? Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Because of that one is a chair. Yes. It's a chair. Yes. You use a Japanese paper. Say, if a dust cover is being torn into half.
The dust cover. You
can use
the same method. If it's made out of paper, you can use exactly the same method to fix that.
I mean, it's half. The other half is not there.
The cover, that dust cover.
Yeah, the dust cover. The half of it is not there. So how are you going to try to come to that corner?
All right. Let's start by explaining it like this. Let's say this piece is gone.
Yeah.
And you want to repair this. There is a rule. Conservation rules are the same as archival rules. You don't add what is lost in terms of content, but you can fix, and you just repair that. So what you would have done, you would have cut a piece of that tissue paper that is the size of that area, and then you put it, you fill it in. We call it infills. If there are pieces that are missing, you use those pieces, you infill. Instead of using a strip like this, you are filling that part that is broken, that is missing, and then you replace it with a new piece of Japanese paper. Yeah. So if you can pass it around, now you can see the repair is done. And what's also interesting is that she chose the material, the tissue that she chose, the color is matching the color of the paper. Yeah. You can see now at the back. Is there any need for me to do anything at the back of it now? There isn't. So this technique, you see, it dries very quickly as well. It doesn't take long to dry. It dries very quickly because most of the excess moisture has been absorbed by the board. So the tissue only picked up enough paste, and I have to work fast also enough to make sure that everything adheres properly. So that's the whole idea. And you know, the interesting thing about this is something that I'm advising those who might want to learn this thing. This is something that you can also take as a hobby. It's a life skill. It's a skill that you can use even when you retire. I've worked with a lot of retired people who work on old books. They spend time, they use it as pastime to fix old books, and they get a little bit of money from it because it's a skill that you can have, and unless maybe you've lost control of your hands and whatever, but for as long as you can be able, you are mobile, you can still be able to repair. It's not like other skills that you only use it in the workplace. These are skills like your craft skills that you can use beyond your work. Yeah, just be careful to close it because otherwise you might not even find the repair. You might not find the repair. You see, it's gone, the repair is, the tear is gone. Magically, we fixed it. Okay, any other questions? Do you want now the team to come and, you want one? Is there anyone who wants to, do you want to come and do one? Fix the tear? Yes. You can come this side. I think I've prepared everything. You can still use the same tissue because there's enough. You don't need to cut. If there's anyone who wants to practice cutting, who trusts is there anyone who think you can do exactly what I did with the cutting? You can come. What was about? Oh, yes, more mending. Yes. Yes, you can do that one. Yeah. So you're gonna cut the tissue, right? Water. What is the best absorbent for water? It's blotting paper. This one is not gonna help you that much, but it might work because this board is a little bit, but let's stick to the blotting paper because you might not have this board. Where are those pieces of blotting paper? So if you are going to glue something here and you don't put this barrier, it's gonna stick. And if you put directly blotting paper, this is gonna stick on the blotting paper as well. So you put blotting paper first, right? And then you put this. Usually I would cut this into strips, but because it's the only one that I have now, I'm not going to cut it. Yeah, like that, and then you know you are safe. Okay, and yeah, compare with that one that I done. Show him the size of that one. I want him to get it right like that. Size. It still can work. You know what, at some point, let me put it this way, when you're starting, the idea is to learn to cut, which is what you've done. And you've done very well because I'm quite impressed, right? But then there's another element, there's a next step, which is quality.
To save.
Yeah, because and saving material. So quality and saving material. So this one you've done very well. I'm happy with it. But also here, you must also make sure that it's fine that side. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. You can work with this. Yeah, but you, before you put on this one, there's something that I want to show you and explain. If you look at this tear, you see the paper toe like this. You see there? Aha. So you need to get glue. You need to get glue here. Before you put that strip, you need to get glue. So you take your brush. Do you have one of those little round ones? In the plastic, if you get in the plastic, there must be a smaller one. I think there must be, remember there were two sizes of brushes in there. Is there another one? Oh, they are the same. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, if they are the same, so this is what we are going to do. We are going to put underneath it.
The three dimension.
Yes. Are you getting it right? Then sometimes you might find just by doing this, you would have actually done the repair. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. By doing this, you might actually have done the repair. Then you do your strip. So remember, you glue here. You take it and put it over the strip. Yeah. And before you start, what are you going to do?
You must do this thing.
But I don't have.
Yeah, he does. So you have these things, so I need to see the social one out here. Before you put your strip.
So can I go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead. Beyond that, you can go ahead. Is this long enough?
Yes. It's long enough. Because you start from here.
Okay. Then you can put it on and see how long is it. You need to have sharp eyes like mine. Eh?
No, I've already made another.
No, you saw the way it's turned. It's turned from the other direction.
Okay.
Right? See, it's not fully, there's no glue at the edge, but that's fine. Then, yes. But there's one.
Where's the weight?
No. You missed one critical point.
I get this, but don't have it.
This material, eh? You're supposed to have waited. It's sticking now to the blotting paper, so we better quickly make sure that we don't allow it to stick. If you don't have that, you must keep changing your blotting papers like that.
Okay.
To absorb. But I'm actually not happy with this thing here. Somehow, let me show you another trick. Wait. I want to show you another thing that you need to learn. This work, you need to also be able to improvise as you go. So, because I see it's too, the tissue is showing too much. So, you can still do this.
Okay.
Then I think his is you can take the bondina out and give it to him. Change your blotting paper. Put the weight. Yours needs a little bit more time to dry because remember we put more glue.
Yeah. Before.
Yeah. We also have.
So is it finished? Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Where's another weight?
You need another weight. You can use another hook.
There's another one.
We also use. I did not have enough of those magnets. We also use magnets for this work. Where, you know the fridge magnets? And a ruler like this, if the tear was here, for instance, if this thing was torn, I would have, after repairing it like this, I put the metal ruler at the back or a metal plate, then I take the magnet, I put it on there, the magnet keeps it in place. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can use to improvise with this. But is there anyone also who wants to try to cut, if it's just to cut and to repair? We are two guys. Can we have two ladies? Or you're all scared? You are afraid? Okay. But any questions? Do you have any questions that you would want to ask? Otherwise, I can then hand over back to Annalise to then show us some of the material and boxes that you can also make. All right.
When we're looking at the photographs, we have a different enclosure for the photograph. So this is a Milex or polyester pocket. You can purchase this as well, or you can make your own. And then you put it in your in your shelves or in the drawers that you keep your photographs. So with ours have hanging bars, so you can see that it hangs in the shelf. The box here we use for manuscripts. So it's also an acid-free box. You can see the white buffer. So there is difference with material. So when we use the grey chipboard, there's no buffer on there. So that means the acidic in there, the acidic of the page can go onto there. And then a few years from now, then it's not acid-free anymore. So with a buffer, it just helps the acidic to stay on, to not be in the box. This is also different enclosures that you can make yourself. It depends on your material. So you take the measurement of your material. This is a vellum binding. So it's a different cloth. So it needs a different enclosure also. So here you will see it's just a sheet of acid-free board, thin board. It's just 1 millimeter board. It's not a very thick board. So then you can just cut your board according to the size of your book. Fold the two flaps in, and the one this side, and there you will see there's a string attached. The string is just for closing purposes. So then you can just close, turn the thread there. Or you can use, you don't need to take thread, but you can also use your normal, you will see some of the books there, just have a tape around it. That is a cotton tape that you can also put around it. We also make our own face boxes. The face box is also, it looks like a book. It's also just for protection of your material. You can also purchase these things at Peter's Papers, or there's a national institution in PE that you can also buy the boxes as well. Then it's already ready-made and not handmade. So if you don't have the staff to do all these handmade boxes, you can purchase as well. Thank you very much for everybody who attend. Sorry?
I just want to ask a follow-up, actually. That's fine.
Okay.
I know it's interesting. This book,
We've got what we call vaults or strong rooms. And films are stored in cans, Mabaso, is that correct? And the videos are kept in their original, well, not some of them are not in original, but there's a special plastic that is used to cover the videos from moist or dust and all of that. Tapes are kept in, if you are, well, at the film archives, I don't think we do, but there's a special box which I think is made similar from a paper like this one, which is also can protect the tapes and audio tapes from dust and moist and also humidity, etc., etc. So it depends. I know at the British Library, the British Museum, and other audiovisual libraries and archives, like I know even at the SABC and EMI and Gallo archives, they have some of these specialized made boxes to protect their audiovisual material. Yeah. Yes, that's why we usually request that people make appointments. At least a 3-day acclimatizing duration of some sort, if we're to say. Because, for example, if you are keeping them at a temperature of 16 degrees, between 16 and 18, room temperature is what? About 24, 23? 22, 23. If you were to take a film and from that 16 degrees, put it on the machine, play it immediately, it's likely going to snap because the machine also by itself warms up. So now the constant change of temperature can actually mess up the tape. So that's why there's always that duration, at least 2 to 3 days, in some instances even 4 days for it to acclimatize. Does that help?
Yeah, it also, the same concept also applies to photographic material like photographic negatives, microfilm. What normally happens, the temperatures that we store them and the humidity is different from the normal room temperature. So if you do not acclimatize them, in fact, the reason for acclimatization is for them to thaw, because some of them are stored at freezing sort of temperatures. So it's for them to thaw and the moisture to evaporate, because if you put them in the machine with that moisture, it's going to damage the machine as well. And as you have heard, the machine is not available locally. So you are actually going to damage your equipment and your film very quickly. The film archives usually, they normally call the storage rooms actually are usually refrigerated. They call them refrigerated rooms. They are not like normal air conditioning, on the air-conditioned rooms. If you go to the film archives, when you get the chance, you will be shown the vault. The vault is basically a cold room. That's what it's designed like, a cold room. So it's like they put a cold room inside the room. So that's the conditions under which they've got to be kept. And yeah, so I don't know if there are any more questions. But we do hope that the few things that we taught you, they will stick in your memory, and it will help you to understand that certain things you can't just do them. You need to get somebody to advise you and to assist you. And I hope it also encourages some of you to actually attend the programs that they run here. Those who are from around here, you're going to learn more if you come and spend time. I think it runs over how many days? 3 days. So you would have enough time, because when you finish after those 3 days, you actually have projects that you're going to take home with you. That's the beauty of that program. So you use that as your reference. If you did a very bad job, you can always hide it so that nobody knows what you have done. But I think it's been a pleasure, colleagues. We do hope that we imparted a bit of skills to you. And you will, whenever you need our contact details, I think you'll be given our contact details. And I did promise that we're going to share the presentation that I made and the book, what we call the Damage Assessment Atlas. So if you can give your contact details to who was coordinating here? Yeah, I'll give them to Annalise, then she'll then email it to people. Thank you so much. I'm Alexio Motsi, and yeah, this is where our program ends today.
Thank you very much. I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Okay.
Homevale High School. Okay. And you are from which high school?
Emmanuel.
All right. So it's 2 schools. Okay. This is what I'm going to request. How many are you? Oh, a few here. 23, 4, 5. Okay. So that you guys can. Okay. They tried this before for you guys to interact. I'm going to request 5 of you to go and join the other guys outside, and then 5 of you to come and join the other guys this side. And make sure that the person sitting next to you is not from your school. Come, let's go. Let's do this. Come on, guys. Come on. Exe, move. Ladies, move. I'm the program director here. I'm giving instructions. The person seated next to you should not be from your school. And you guys, this side, what's the story? What's the story? Okay. Mix. The person seated next to you should not be from your school. You guys are wasting my time. Come, let's move. Yes. We need someone from Emmanuel here. There. Okay. Right. What's happening here? You've been sitting there. Chief, you've been sitting there. I give instructions here. You guys okay now? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you finding a spot? Sit. Can go and sit there at the back. It's okay. It's all right. Are we better now? Are we okay? My surname is Languza, right? My name is Nkwenkwezi. I'm from Pretoria, from the National Archives of South Africa. Today, and welcome to this is called the Africana Library. You guys went on a tour, right? We're starting the program, right? Yes. And what did you guys learn? What did you guys see? Come, quickly. What did you guys see? Records. You saw records, and what else? Maps. What else did you see? Newspapers. What else did you see? Statues, okay. Yes, what else did you see? Lots of books. What else did you see? Sorry? The what? Calculators. Sorry, ma'am, sorry. What else did you see? Typewriters. What else did you see? Old artifacts. What else did you see?
Old people.
Old people like me. Old people like me. You guys are here to learn, okay? Make sure that by the time you leave this place by 3:15, hopefully, you will have learned as much information as possible, okay? You guys are going to be taken on a practical workshop where you're going to be playing around with glue and paper and all of that, but make sure that you learn as much as possible. Ask questions, okay? So that by the end of the session you have learned something, right? Practically so and theoretically so. Is that okay? Mr. Motsi, also from our office, the National Archives, is going to be facilitating the workshop with other colleagues from Africana Library. Feel free to ask questions, right? Feel free to ask questions. It's going to make a few presentations, do a few demonstrations, But do me a favor, right? Listen attentively. No noise unnecessarily so, okay? If you've got anything to ask, come to me. I'll be here at the front. Just ask if you need to go to the toilet or bathroom. Just indicate, right? But no phones up until 3:30. Is that okay? Is that in order? Is there anyone who's got an emergency? No one? No one? No one? Okay. Mr. Mozi, may I hand over to you? The time on my watch now is 2 minutes past 2. We should be out of here by 3:15.
I told you that he is the principal, didn't I? I'm just your facilitator. I'm working with my colleague from the Africana Library. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very big challenge because earlier on we were presenting to people with degrees and PhDs and doctors and professors and you name it. Now we've got to present to people with diplomas and, you know, the future generation, the future people who are going to run this country. So it's a very difficult one because we were presenting to those who can never change. We know that, but you can change. You've got so much space and room to adapt and to change. So I want to give you just a simple example because this is Archive Week. We're talking about archives, and archives is actually records or recorded information of our past. Basically, that's, let me not complicate the definition, but that's what an archive is. Do you know when your life started being recorded? Does anyone know here? Yes?
Since birth.
What? Since birth? Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else who thinks differently? Your life started being recorded long before birth. When your mother and your father got together, they were writing each other notes and little letters, SMSs, WhatsApp messages. Then someone says, hey, I'm pregnant. Yes, I'm pregnant. This is it's documented. You are being documented. Hey, I've got to go to the hospital. They're documenting that the ambulance picks her up, goes to there, or before even that, they've got to go for regular checkups, isn't it? And there's a record of that at the doctor or gynecologist or clinic or whatever you go, and your life was being recorded. Apart from that, those who were fortunate to get married, there's also another process of documenting that, isn't it? There's a marriage certificate, there's lobola payment, and I've attended as malume in another process where I had to be the one to negotiate the lobola, and I write everything down. So your life has been documented long before you knew it was we knew you were going to be here. So the issue is when you are going to school now, when you win an award, what do you do with your awards? Do you know where you're keeping it? Do you know exactly where it is? Do you know exactly where it is? No, look at me. Don't look at that monitor. It's not here. Is there anyone who really keeps your medals and your awards, your certificate? Do you even know where your grade 1 certificate is? Yes. You do? Yes. Okay, I'm proud. I don't know where mine are. What happened to your first book that you wrote? You were writing your exercises in grade 1? You don't know. You threw it away, ne? Yeah. That is when you were throwing away your own history. You're throwing your own life away because that's your first thing that you wrote. Do you even remember the first word that you learned to write? Your name. Okay. You see, so this is, I'm telling you, what I'm trying to drive at is that the issue is about preserving your past. And from where you are, I've seen some of you carrying school bags in buses, and you drop it and you sit on it. Someone, you see them dragging it like it's not even on wheels. This thing is being dragged. Sometimes you play games at each other. You open the bag, you throw the books at each other. All these things are happening, but that's actually a reckless society when we are building a very vandalistic society. You must learn to preserve your history. There was a question that was asked here that all these books here are written by white people for white people and they contain white information. because we were throwing our grade 1 books away, isn't it? So I think videographer, we're having a problem here. Yeah, let's get to it. Where's yeah, all right. So what we want to do is that archives is all about preserving our past. We preserve everything that is about you, the human recordings, whatever has been recorded about you, we look after it. And what then happens, the benefit of archives is people like you become academics, you start doing research, you come to the archives, you write a history about the school, Emmanuel School. If you want to write, is there any book written about your school, the history of your school? There are many, and the other school? There's yes, there's Maybe those who are saying yes are just saying because they've heard the other school has got many books. Right? Yeah, so so we need to learn to document. Do you know the heroes in your village, in your community, in your location, in your street? The political heroes, or in fact, people think of politicians as heroes. Not only that, there are some heroes there in the community. Who is documenting them? They're not being documented. So we want to, the purpose of this session is just to show you how some of the basic things that we do in looking after our history, apart from us having received it and kept it in archives. We also then have to preserve it and make sure that it continues to be utilized by younger generations, because we want to preserve this material for perpetuity, or in perpetuity, which means forever and ever and ever. Amen. Because the Bible was written, and when the Bible was written, it was not originally the way it looks like now. It started from somewhere, and it was being written, and it was being, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they had all these people who were writing things, and those people were put together into creating a book. So, by the way, you're on SABC. Okay, so what we have now today for you is that we don't have much time because we need to release you soon. So we're going to show you just a few things of how we look after the material, and we're going to then do an exercise. You're going to do just one exercise that you're then going to take home with you, just as a way to show that you were here and this is what you did. So you were asked, in fact, when Mr. Languza was asking you, what did you see when you were walking around here? You all spoke about everything else until you said books. And you all forgot that you are surrounded by books. You know, it was so interesting that you saw everything out there, but you did not see what was just behind you and in front of you. So books basically are an extraction of what is actually found from records, historical records, and we are specializing in repairing the books because some of these books are unique. There's no longer, they're out of print, so it might be a few copies left in the world, and we need to preserve them. Archival records are unique. Your birth record is the only one in the country. If it's in a register, that register is only one. You can never find another one in the world. So we've got various ways that we preserve those. One is to do the conservation part, which is the repair and fixing them when they are damaged. The other one, we keep them under good conditions. We use containers, boxes that we shall show you here. Another modern technology that is being used, we use digitization. We digitize those records. Then we put the original away for safety. So people, when they are looking for information, they go to the digital copy. So here at the Africana Library, they specialize in books. We at the National Archives, we specialize in various forms of records, which includes film, video, sound, paper records, photographs, slides, glass negatives, various forms of archival information that we look after. And my profession is I'm responsible for preservation, and which includes all the other things like digitization and conservation and storage. We also deal with disaster management and disaster preparedness. which is what we do in the event a disaster strikes, and these records are flooded in water or there is a fire, we must deal with that. So there are various causes of damage to archival records or books. One of them is what I've just spoken about, you with your bags. You throw books around. How many of you have had books thrown at them by their teacher when the teacher is angry? You did not do your exercise properly. Then the teacher gets very frustrated and throws it back at you. I see 3 hands, ma'am. And how many have thrown books at each other? Yeah. It looks like the same. It looks like the books follow you, either from the teachers or from other students. You are attracted to books throwing. So this is actually damage, one of the physical damage. And that one, I call it basically negligence. It's negligence. You neglect to look after that book, and you decide to turn it into a weapon. A weapon. If you want to weaponize a book, read the words inside the book or write in it. That's how you weaponize a book. Words can be weaponized. And how do you weaponize your mind? You study, you learn, and you educate yourself. So you weaponize your mind against poverty, against failure, against any forms of negative, against what? Stupidity. Yes, yes. You weaponize yourself against stupidity. Nobody. How many people have actually found themselves in that situation? I've been in that situation. I grew up in a village, very poor family, never had to wear shoes to school, never had to wear a brand new uniform, but I was always top 3 in my class. And I was so small I could not do anything, but the teachers loved me because I was very obedient. So I weaponized myself. All the adversities elsewhere, I weaponized myself by learning and putting so much effort in what I was learning. And I would advise you that those who are smart, they don't talk too much. Isn't it? Yeah. So that's how you weaponize yourself. So we preserve records, we damage records and books by that kind of behavior of vandalism, negligence, and abuse. There's also other things that damage books. The material that they are made in also are self-deteriorating. Some of you, you've done biology, right? There's a bit of biology at your grade, isn't it? Yes, yes. So you would know this thing of how trees sort of grow and germinate and all those things, right? And lignin and you know all those things. Osmosis? No? Okay, that's way above your level. Photosynthesis? You know that, ne? Osmosis. I was taught that osmosis is the movement of fluids from a region of higher concentration to a region of low concentration. And I still remember that. What it means is that when this paper is dry and you pour water on, you put it inside water, because it's dry, it's going to absorb water until it reaches a level where it's full of water, right? So what happens with paper and leather and whatever, they degenerate with time. Natural aging, which we call aging process, which all of you are undergoing. We are all, when you celebrate your birthday, every year you are aging, and you will catch up with me eventually, and you go beyond me. And you'll be that old Magogo, old grandpa without teeth, who everybody is laughing at, right? That's aging process. And so, even when a tree is dead, it continues to deteriorate. Hence, we've got what? Oil, petrol, diesel. It comes from fossil, isn't it? Some people say it's dinosaurs. Because beyond you dying, you continue to deteriorate, and that's what happens. So those are the natural aging processes. But there's also chemicals that are used when they make paper, and they put those chemicals in here to break the fibers, but those chemicals also have got adverse effect. And then the fact that there's temperature, humidity, and all that, it also works against that. And then there's the little cockroaches and hohos. The reason why you're being asked not to eat here, because you've got books in here, you've got wood. If you drop your food in here, if it goes in between the cracks, if you know the way they put wooden floors, they put concrete first, then they put beams, then they lay the floor that you're sitting. That's why sometimes when you do this, you feel it's hollow. So if you drop food, it goes in there, and the pests, cockroaches, are going to be living there. And they'll come and eat the books, and that history will be wiped out. So those are some of the things that can cause a lot of damage to. And then light, of course. Light, you know, if you ever left a newspaper or your book open for 2 days in the sun, that's deterioration. That's caused by light. So all these things, when records come to a library or to an archive, we now need to correct that damage. Unfortunately for me and the other colleagues, we've got to fix the damage that other people have caused. Recklessness, if you go to Home Affairs, now at least you apply your ID electronically. In the past, they used to fill everything. You take photographs, you go with photographs, and then they fill this register, and every time that register is being paged, the first 3 pages are gone, even the front cover is gone. It comes to the archives, I must find that cover and put it back in there. So we are going to just show you, I don't know whether you are ready, Annalise. Annalise is the conservator. What a conservator does is they're the ones who repair things that have been broken, but they also prevent damage and slow down deterioration one way or the other. So she's going to talk to you about some of the things that she does here to prevent further deterioration and damage to the records.
Good afternoon, learners. My name is Annalise Rowan. I'm the conservator in this library institution. We are a special library. We're not an archives, we're a special library. So when we're not operating like a normal library where people come in and we do, you can come and sit. So now, because we have limited space and we're a special library, we only accommodate smaller groups of people. And our oldest record, you know what is the date of the oldest record? Yes, 1400s. So that's why they see us also falling under archives, because your archives have your old records. And then we also have manuscripts. But by having old records, we need to look after them. So as Dr. said here, the documents need to be handled in a specific way. We can't just go and take the book off the shelf. There's a special method by taking off that book so that we can prolong its life. No? So in the library, as a conservator, I need to make sure that the temperature is correct. We need to make sure that the humidity is correct. I think you guys already touched temperature, humidity, and everything that we can prevent that record to get any damage and last for years to come. So that's why we have certain enclosures also. We have boxes that we handmade. So then we keep our books in there. Then when we're looking at photographs, it depends on the photograph itself. Some of our photographs is still in frames. Then we need to take that photograph out of the frames. The reason why we take it out of the frames is because we want to prevent insects going in there. We want to prevent insects eating that photograph or eating on that documents. And we don't keep all the photos hanging or all the photos in frames. But those ones that's in frames, we need to look after them as well. So we need to check them regularly to make sure that there's no holes, no openings, and there's no, we're trying not to get too much chemical reaction also. Because you remember your frame. What is your frame made out of? Hey? Wood. Yes, some of them is wood. Some of them have the plastic. Yes, what else? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Some of them have, sorry?
Acidic box, non-acid box.
Yes, some of them is, you said as acidic? Non-acid, acid-free, okay. Yes. So when we start looking after that framework, then we need to put in acid-free material to preserve that frame, because we still want the photo, we can't remove all the photos out of frames. Some of the photos we can still take out of the frames and then put it in different storage boxes or different storage methods. Né? But as you can see with this photo, this is now a Market Square photo. This is now where the town hall. You know where is the city wall? Yes, I think there's a taxi rank also there. Né? There was the Market Square, and this is how it used to look. So there were not a lot of, if you can see, there's not a lot of buildings there. So we need to preserve this document. This photo is an 1800 photo, so that's why we put it in the sleeves for handling purposes and also to make sure that the acidic, you can set the acidic free as well. Is there something that I didn't touch?
Maybe just to open it to show them that you actually made this box.
Can you remember I said all our other boxes and some of our enclosures is all handmade. So when we're talking about handmade, we're talking about taking the measurement of the document. So now we need to know what is the exact measurement for us to be able to make the box, so that the box can fit nicely and the book can fit nicely and not fall around. Because imagine if the book was, every time if you lift up a book and it's falling in the case, how much damage will that cause to the book itself? So now we have a very rare book. There was only 3 published in the world. And you are like throwing this book around in an enclosure. So that's why we try to make it handmade and with acid-free material so that we can preserve the document for more than 100 years. We're going to show you a little bit of mending. I think we still have time. When we're talking about mending, then we're talking about repairing. Sometimes we as conservators use conservation names and then you don't understand. But when we're talking about mending, it's not like your sellotape. We don't use sellotape, taking, okay, here's a tear, so we're just going to put sellotape on there. We use special archival material. And that is now our Japanese tissue paper. It's important. Are you going to? Yes. We have also different tools. Okay. We have different tools. So with the Japanese tissue paper, there is fibers in the Japanese tissue paper. So the fibers grow into the page. A few years from now, you won't even see the Japanese tissue paper. That's why we need to use the correct type of Japanese tissue paper. The Japanese tissue paper come in different thickness, different names, and also different colors. So sometimes you can even use the Japanese tissue paper as a cloth when you do mending, when you do repair work on there.
Okay. Yes. Let me try to create some space here. Yeah. Those who can't see closely, you probably have to follow on the screen. We are going to just demonstrate how to repair a simple torn page where let me try to speak as loud as I can. You see there is a tear, this page. It's got these tears, né? Right? So usually people would use sellotape. So today you now know that sellotape is a no-no, because sellotape is made out of plastic, which is not very archival, and then the glue, the adhesive that is on that plastic is also non-archival. So what it does, everything that has been repaired with sellotape, if you go back to it after years, you see that the plastic falls off and the gum dries off, but the gum then sort of seeps through the page, and that whole area becomes highly acidic. If you were to test the acidity of that, you do know what acid is, no? Okay. If you test, how do you test for acidity? How do you test for acidity? Have you done that? Have you reached that stage as yet? Those pH tests, pH indicator strips, you don't know them? You know them? Yes, the ones that turn litmus paper, we used to call it. It turns red when it's something acidic. It's turned purple or blue when it's, yeah. Because there are three levels. There's acid, then there's what? Base. Then there's alkaline, isn't it? Base, which is your normal pH 7, the average. Then below pH 7 is your acid. Above pH 7 is your alkaline. So acid, it's very damaging to paper fibers. It breaks the paper fibers. So we don't want to apply anything that brings acidity in there. So here we've got a pen. They made our lives very difficult. It's easier because the pH indicator strips or the litmus paper, you've got to use some water, pH 7 water to test, but usually when you expose that water to the air, it starts reacting with the gases in the atmosphere. So by the time you start measuring, there's influence from the atmosphere as well. So we use this pen, which usually you must just choose a very discrete spot in your book to just use it. So you just make a little mark or just a line. If it's acidic, you won't even see the color because it's yellow. It becomes, or it just disappears. But if it's alkaline, you see the color changes to almost like what? Yeah. In this case, the alkaline looks like what, brown or purple? Yeah, purple, yeah. So, but this is a little bit dry. Yeah. So what we're going to do for you today is, I just want to demonstrate how we repair records. It's not something that you're going to be able to do on your own, but it just shows you what we do so that when you're choosing your career, this might be something that you might be interested in. All right. By the way, before you get to this, you need to learn bookbinding, how to put a book together, and if we had more time, we would have actually done a simple binding for you, but we don't have that time at the moment because that's a day's exercise to do a book binding. So what I'm going to do is, this is Japanese paper that we just cut a small piece, and what I do, I cut, because I don't want to cut the strip that I'm going to use here with a knife or with a scissors. I use either a blunt needle or I use a water brush. A water brush is just a brush that contains water. You see, this is water. And it's best to use water that is actually neutral, pH 7. Usually we use the term deionized or distilled water. So I'm going to use this. This board that you've got is it's highly absorbent. It's like blotting paper, so it absorbs moisture. If I do this with the water brush, the water just seeps through, and that's actually the effect that I need. So I'm going to use this water brush to cut this strip. And you're wondering, how do you cut? I'm not cutting, I'm just drawing a line. I hope, yeah, I think it's not controlled very well. But because it's wet at a certain area, you can then break it apart. But this is not a very good cut because of the base that I used. I used the board. I'm going to use blotting paper instead because blotting paper is more controlled. You see now the difference when I use the blotting paper and the difference between the blotting paper and the board. And you just need like 5 millimeters of strip. You don't want anything bigger than that. Right? You see with the blotting paper, the line is thinner. And when I break it, you see now it's coming out nicely. So the choice of your material and your tools is very, very important as well. So this is what we do. I make it look very simple, but I'm going to ask one of you to try and do it when I'm done so that you can see how difficult it is, or you can prove me that, prove me wrong. So to do this work, you need to also have the right material. I've got my blotting paper, which is highly absorbent. I've got this material, we call it bondina. Some people use wax paper, the one that you use for baking. Yeah, we can use that one. But that one is less absorbent. It does not allow moisture to go through as easily as this material. So I want to repair this tear here. So I'll put my blotting paper underneath. Something very important to note with this book, you see that it's got writing. And that writing is done with ink. And that ink, you come close to it with water, that ink is going to bleed through. So I need to control my process very, very well. So I'm going to, what we use methyl cellulose. And can I have those little round doorknobs? Yeah, those ones. If anyone is missing door handles at your house, I'm the culprit. I stole them. This is methyl cellulose. Don't ask me what it's made of. You can ask her. But it's a powder that is water soluble. You just put it in water. You've got to measure it, and then you dilute it. And when it's after an hour or so, it will look like this. The advantage of this is that you could use starch paste, but the starch paste, because it's starch-based, it's attractive to pests. This one does not have any food value, so pests do not really enjoy eating this. So now, when I do this, I want to control the moisture because remember, we've got the ink at the back. So I apply my adhesive or glue on this board, like that, right? And this is just for me to be able to bring my tissue strip on the glue. So the tissue strip is going to just pick up enough glue that I need, and I can be able to monitor and control the speed at which it dries before it affects the ink. So this bondina goes, remember I put the blotting paper first, then I'm going to put the bondina, or if it's wax paper you're using, you put it to avoid this sticking onto the blotting paper. And then, once I've done that, I'll bring this tissue over the tear. I'm going to then put it over the tear. And you can also use, this is Teflon folder. You also can use a bone folder. It's made out of a bone, something's bone, but not human. Don't worry, it's usually something that you can eat, so you can handle it. Then once you've done that, you can also do this and put another blotting paper. And then put, this is a weight, it's lead inside here. So you leave it for a few minutes to dry, and then it will dry. Your repair is actually done. Now the other thing is that a person would then say, what if this page has got missing corners? Let's say this whole corner is missing. I would also use the same material or get a thicker Japanese paper, and then I'll cut it, I'll trace the missing corner, and then cut a piece like that using exactly the same, water brush. You must remember that one. And then I stick it on. And sometimes also you might find that if it's a heavier paper, you might want to repair on both sides. Put a strip on one side and another one on the other side. But because this one, for instance, has got writing on the other side, I wouldn't want to cover the writing because this tissue is a bit thicker, so it will obscure the ink. Right. So now you will see there was the group of older people who were here. We did some repairs, exactly the same repair. We repaired some pages, some tears. Let me just figure. Yeah, you see this one here? This is a repaired tear, so you can pass it around so that everybody can see what it will look like when it's done, that repair. Look both sides, front and back. Yeah, so that's actually the repair we are trying to achieve by doing this. So if you are working, we've got various ways of doing this. If you are working and you've got so many tears in this, you might have 3-4 books that you're working on at the same time. You do this, you move to the next one. So we've got a systematic way of doing that. So I don't know whether there's any questions at this point or points of clarity.
Can I ask one of each table to just maybe do the repair work? Do we have time for that?
Yes, we can. Can you pick? Can you pick?
A girl that side and a boy that side, maybe, or a girl that side, so we can have one
Let's pick one from each table. This side, who is going to be your team leader? Are you volunteering? Yes, she's volunteered. Find a tear in here. There's a tissue that has already been cut there. Let me see it first. No, we're not going to use this. Yeah, so the person who is going to do the repair, you need to work with someone who will cut the strip for you. So who is going to be your strip cutter? Who is going to be your cutter? This side, which one? Who has been picked here? No one. I'll pick up the odd one. I pick the odd one out. You do the repair. Why do you think you are odd? Your jacket is different from everybody else. So I've picked up, it stands out, it's beautiful. So I pick you. So you want to clear your space like this. Let me get you a book where there's a repair that needs to be done. Sorry. Okay, yeah, this one is a perfect one. There is a repair to be done. So the one sitting next to you is going to be doing the cutting. I hope you were watching what I was doing. Okay. Right, who is doing the cutting? A guy. You're being picked up. I know that you got picked up from, you got removed from here. You're going to do the cutting. So here, have you chosen the person who's doing the cutting? You cutting. You're holding the scissors, but you're not going to cut with the scissors. So you're going to cut with the water brush. Okay? And what do you need to cut with the water brush? The two things that you needed? Blotting paper and the water brush, the actual tissue, and what else? Ruler you already have. There you go. So I don't want to waste this Japanese paper because you don't need big pieces. So there you go. You cut the strip, and then you pass it on to this side. You've got your glue in front of you, or you can use this one here. And you're going to need this as well next to you. And you need the bondina. I think I can take this one off now. There you go. So you can also circulate this one now for you guys to see what has happened. I've not trimmed this thing. At the end you trim it and you cut it off, but you can see what it looks like. Yeah. By the way, you are not pressing to cut. You're just making it, yeah. Yeah. All right. What is the size? How wide is your strip? Did you see what she's cutting, the size that she's cutting for you? You've seen it, eh? You are happy with it? If you are happy, I'm happy. Do you need to guide them? Yeah. No, these ones, they're waiting for the water brush. They're gonna. We're waiting for this brush.
You know why you have to tear the Japanese tissue paper? Because if you cut it and you put that cut piece on your page, then it will tear the page there. But if you turn it, then the fibers grow into the page.
Yes, they fuse into the paper. Yeah, because remember, hasn't anybody been cut by paper? Yes, so that paper can actually cut you. The cutting guy is that side. You're not off the hook. There, you need a ruler. Yeah, so you just need I want you to cut the strip this wide. Four-sided tape. Right? 6. Yes, 6. That are the same length as these ones. You're not going to measure them, but you're going to just use your eye to measure. Because we're only going to seal 3 sides, and each side must have 2. Right? One more. Then you pass on. So I've got my 6 strips like that. So it allows me to pass on the scissors and the tape to the next person. More sellotape here. If you are done here, you can pass it to that other side. Here is another one. And the scissor. Okay? Oh, okay. Yeah. And those who are done, when you are done with yours, you can then start putting your sellotape on your mylar. So you're going to open the mylar. You're going to open the mylar like this, right? Okay. And then you put your strips on. Don't put them right to the corner, ne?
Next to the corner.
No, not. Yeah, just leave a space. So 2 on each side. You can have 3 if you want, but we're just trying to speed up the process so that you can be able to finish this before the time that we allocated. Yes, you see, the principal will be harsh on you, and he can also be harsh on the teachers. So one thing that I do not want to do is to be reprimanded by the principal. This one is a very tough principal. Yeah. This is what you're trying to achieve. Right? Do you all see? Remember, you open it like this. Yeah.
All 6 of them.
Yes, all 6 of them. And when you've done that, you wait for everybody else to finish. The other guys are still cutting. Tell me. Show me how you do it. No, let's don't take it off. We will assist you. There's always. So you're gonna have to flip it around, ne? Yeah. Because if you do this, you're gonna start all over again with the sellotape. So here.